Chapter 170. What? You've broken through. How is this possible? Changyu looked around at them and sneered, don't tell me you haven't noticed that your cultivation has been growing at a frightening speed in just a few days. Hearing Changyu's words, everyone looked at each other in dismay, and then started to inspect themselves. This inspection was truly incredible. What the fuck? I'm about to break through to mystic stage. My cultivation has also increased. Heavens, I didn't even notice. Changyu continued to ridicule, I said that you guys are idiots, yet you don't want to admit it. Haven't you seen the sea of people outside Junji drugstore these past few days? What were those people doing here? All of them are here to buy drafts. Why do these people have to queue all night to buy our Junji drugstore's drafts? Do you still not understand? The others widened their eyes and trembled, unable to control their emotions. Because our master is an extremely powerful alchemist. The drafts that she refines are hard to find even with 10 million gold coins. And we, for the past few days, have been drinking a bottle every day. Gulp. Someone could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. As for the training and the music, I don't know how you feel, but in the past few days, I only feel that my body has become stronger, and the old injuries in my body are slowly healing. What's even more unbelievable is that I feel that my state of mind has become clear, and the demons in my heart have been expelled unknowingly. The bottleneck that has been bothering me for years has become insignificant in just a few days. Do you know what this means? Everyone in the room sucked in a breath of cold air, and their bodies began to tremble involuntarily. Changyu swings his sleeve, turns around and leaves the room. If there's still any idiot who wants to leave, then go ahead and leave. I believe that there must be a lot of people outside who want to enter our ink camp. After Changyu left, the remaining people looked at each other in dismay. Suddenly, someone shouted, let's go, let's go. From now on, Laozi will take root in the ink camp. Alive, I'm a person of the ink camp, dead, I'm a dead person of the ink camp. If I pledge my loyalty to Little Master, I'll be able to advance quickly and become an expert. So what if I have to work for Little Master for the rest of my life? What's more, the time limit given by Jun Mayan is 10 years. The woman said that as long as they protected and served Xiaobao for 10 years, she would return their freedom. From now on, it was up to them to decide if they wanted to stay or go. Mayan is flabbergasted to discover that on the second day of training, the enthusiasm of these people from the ink camp has suddenly soared to an unprecedented level. It was as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Even the baptism of the Tian Mo Chins floating like a dream, which they were most afraid of in the past, was now without fear. On the contrary, each and every one of them was eager to give it a try. Mu Yan regretfully shakes her head. TSK, these guys, how did they become enlightened so quickly? If he hadn't been enlightened, she could have tortured him for a while longer. That's right, this period of training is beneficial to the people of the ink camp. But it is also true that Mayan is deliberately tormenting them. For example, a draft that originally doesn't have any side effects when drunk can be transformed into a bitter medicine that would make you hover between life and death when drunk. For example, in Floating Like a Dream, he could make their lives a little more miserable and torturous. The reason was, of course, to take revenge on these fellows for insulting Xiaobao. But now that these guys have become so active and obedient, Mayan feels embarrassed to continue tormenting them. Chapter 171. Mu Yan glances at Changyu and suddenly takes out a bottle of draft. Then, he beckoned Xiaobao over. Xiaobao, your subordinates have been training for some time now. Which of them do you think is the most outstanding? Give this bottle of filter of barrier breaking to him. What? Filter of barrier breaking. Was it the filter of barrier breaking worth tens of millions of gold coins? As soon as Mayan says this, each and every one of the ink camp's people turn into Spartans. Especially when they saw Xiao Bao handing the filter of barrier breaking to Chang Yu with a deadpan expression, they were even more regretful. They were pigs. What a moron. Why didn't he perform well earlier? Otherwise, the filter of barrier breaking might very well have been theirs. Chang Yu was flattered and took the filter of barrier breaking from Xiao Bao's hands. Although he was already close to breaking through to the Earth stage, with the filter of barrier breaking, it was equivalent to sweeping away all obstacles. There would be no danger or side effects during the breakthrough. Moreover, once he broke through, it would be the most stable realm, and he might even be able to rise to an even higher realm. How could he not be happy? Thank you, young master. Chang Yu held the filter of barrier breaking in his hand, his scarred face scrunched up as he smiled. From now on, this subordinate will definitely do his best and pledge his loyalty to little master. Xiao Bao nodded and slowly uttered, "You're not bad." Although it was just a simple evaluation, it came from the mouth of the little master who valued words like gold. It was not easy at all. Chang Yu's excited body can't help but tremble, and the members of the ink camp at his side are even crazier with jealousy. They swore that they would perform well in the following days and strive for the reward of the filter of barrier breaking, as well as the praise of their young master. When Mu Yan saw this scene, the corners of her mouth hooked up into a faint smile. The autumn wind is rustling, and unwittingly, it's already the annual Lantern Festival of the Yanwu continent. Mu Yan is holding Xiao Bao's hand, followed by Yan Haotian, leisurely walking on the streets of Xiao and city. Today, the streets were bustling with noise and excitement. Colorful lanterns were hung on both sides of the street, and a dazzling array of goods could be seen below. On this day, both men and women went out together, and there was laughter everywhere. "Xiao Bao, is there anything you want? Did Nyangqin buy it for you?" Mu Yan held Xiao Bao's hand and lowered her head to ask softly. However, Xiao Bao shook his head, only holding Mu Yan's hand tighter, "Neither. As long as he is with his mother, that's enough." Mu Yan, on the other hand, felt a little distressed. Her baby was just too well-behaved, too sensible. Why couldn't he act coquettishly and cry like other children, asking for this and that? "Baby, do you think that rabbit lantern is pretty?" Mu Yan suddenly points to a lantern hanging outside a shop not far away and asks Xiao Bao, "Doesn't it look like a fat rabbit?" Xiao Bao follows Mu Yan's finger and looks over. Sure enough, he sees a white and plump rabbit lantern. Long ears, red eyes, and a small mouth. She looked really cute, much cuter than the stupid rabbit in the space. In the space, the fat rabbit sneezed like a human. After that, it rubbed its nose with its short claws, turned over and fell to the ground, snoring loudly. Mu Yan saw that Xiao Bao's eyes were sparkling as he looked at the rabbit lantern. She immediately picked him up happily and went to the front of the shop. "Boss, I want this rabbit lantern. Boss, give me this lantern." Chapter 172. Holding Xiao Bao, Mu Yan turns around to look. What she sees is a young man dressed in white, tall and slender, with an outstanding demeanor. There's a kind of warm, jade-like aura that lingers around him. Just looking at him makes people feel close to him. It's just that the young man is wearing a mask, covering most of his face. Only a pair of pitch-black clear eyes and soft curved thin lips are exposed. Hearing Mu Yan's voice, the young man also turns around to look. Seeing Mu Yan and Xiao Bao in her arms, he shows a slightly surprised expression. "Two honored guests, I'm really sorry, but we only have one rabbit lantern in our shop." The shop owner comes forward with a smile, "But our shop has a rule, if you want to buy a lantern, you have to guess a riddle. The two of you might as well try to guess this riddle of this old man. Whoever guesses correctly first will have this lantern. The riddle is, all living things sleep together in a dream, find a kind of draft. Mu Yen curls up the corner of her lips, finding it very interesting. The riddle that this boss came up with is actually a draft. Just as Mu Yen is about to answer, she hears Xiao Bao's crisp voice, "Nyangqin, Xiao Bao wants to guess by himself." It's the rabbit lantern that Xiao Bao wants, so Xiao Bao has to guess by himself. If you want something, you have to snatch it yourself. Mu Yen can't help but laugh at her son's domineering manner. Her eyebrows curve as she nods. Okay, Xiao Bao will guess by himself. His delicate little face slightly wrinkles, racking his brains. For a moment, he can't think of anything. Just then, the young man next to him says, "It's the scorpion grass." The scorpion grass is a very rare draft. All living things sleep together in a dream, completely at rest, scorpion grass. Xiao Bao hasn't seen it before, so he can't think of it. Gongzi guessed right. The boss shouts, smiling as he takes down the rabbit lantern and gives it to the young man. Xiao Bao is a little disappointed, but he doesn't have any regrets. He grabs Mu Yan's hand, about to leave. "Little Gongzi, please wait." The young man suddenly calls out to stop them. As soon as Xiao Bao turns around, the rabbit lantern is already in front of him. "I'll give it to you." Unfortunately, Xiao Bao doesn't appreciate it. He says in a low, muffled voice, "Nyangqin said, a real man, a loss is a loss. Don't accept charity." The corner of the young man's lips curled up, revealing a dazed smile. After a long time, he finally said softly, "I haven't been able to find the person who likes this rabbit lantern for a very, very long time. Even if I brought it back, I wouldn't be able to give it to her, so I might as well give it to you. Besides..." The youth looks up at Mayan. "Your mother has already guessed the answer. In terms of ethics, this rabbit lantern is yours." After saying that, the young man stuffed the rabbit lantern into little Bao's hands, turned around, and left. Looking at the young man's departing figure, Mu Yan raised her eyebrows, and her gaze fell on a jade tablet at his waist. It was the jade token of the Purple Sun sect. In Huangyao country, the Ziyang school was second only to the Tiandao school. In other words, a few years ago, the Ziyang house was only a second or third-rate sect in the Huangyao country. However, in the past 2 years, his reputation had soared, and his strength had soared. Because Ziyang Zone has produced a genius that can shock the entire Yanwu continent, Bai Chen. Before Gong Qinshua advanced to heaven's stage at the age of 22, Bai Chen was publicly recognized as the #1 genius in the entire Yanwu continent. However, Mu Yan very quickly threw the Ziyang school and the young man to the back of her mind. Holding Xiao Bao's hand, she continues to wander around the flower market. The three people waited until the moon is high in the sky, then they slowly walk back. Chapter 173. In the end, both sides of the road were empty except for the three lonely figures. However, Xiao Bao suddenly stops and looks up at Mayan, Nyangqin. Mu Yan smiled and said in a clear voice, "You followed us all the way here. Don't tell me you still don't plan to show yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, a stream of light wrapped in a fierce aura rushed toward him. Mu Yan and Xiao Bao didn't move, but Yan Haotian did. His tall and sturdy body rose up and slapped the figure that was pouncing towards him. His cold profound energy was like a surging tide as it pervaded his entire body. Pang! The two Xian Qis collided, creating intense sparks. Yan Haotian used to be a high-rank Earth Realm warrior. Although his cultivation was destroyed, his consciousness was still there. After Mu Yan's treatment, it directly recovered to the early stage of Earth stage. And for more than a month, as the leader of the Ink camp, he's been training together with the people under him. Now, he had already returned to the high rank of Earth Realm. Although the newcomer's cultivation was high and his skills were not bad, he was far from being Yan Haotian's match. Thus, after several breaths of time, the cold light in Yan Haotian's eyes retracted. His fist turned into a claw and he grasped his opponent's throat. A terrifying murderous aura emanated from his body. It was as if, as long as the other party made the slightest movement, he would break that person's neck. However, in the next moment, a weak and soft voice resounded out, and it caused Yan Haotian to seem as if he was struck by lightning, causing him to let go of his hand in a daze. Yan Haotian, I finally found you. Yan Haotian staggered a step back and opened his mouth to speak. However, he was now a mute, so how could he speak? However, this tower-like man was currently trembling, and even the rims of his eyes were slightly red. What? Do you know each other? Mu Yan, who had unknowingly walked over, looked at Yan Haotian, then looked at the person in front of him, revealing a mocking expression. Standing in front of Yan Haotian was a man with red eyes staring at him. He was dressed in a man's outfit. But with her red lips, white teeth, and a face that was like a peach and plum, no matter how one looked at it, she was a beautiful woman disguised as a man. From the very beginning, Mu Yan didn't discover that the people following them had any malice towards them. At first, she thought that it was the young man who bought lanterns in the market. He didn't expect it to be a woman. Moreover, it was a woman who had a close relationship with Yan Haotian. Hearing Mu Yan's words, Yan Haotian suddenly regained his senses. He then restrained all of his emotions and shook his head stiffly. Hearing this, the woman's frail body suddenly swayed. She could no longer hold back her tears, and they rolled down her cheeks. After a while, a hoarse and trembling voice came out from the woman's mouth. Are you still blaming me? If I told you that I didn't want to cancel the engagement that day, would you believe me? Yan Haotian closes his eyes, then gently shakes his head and looks at Mayan. Mu Yan said with a smile that was not a smile, oh, since you don't know him, then let's go. The woman's teary eyes slowly turned towards Mayan. Seeing her beautiful face, the sadness in her eyes turns into despair in a split second. Tears rolled down from her eyes. She forced a smile. So, you already have someone who can accompany you. This is good, really, very good. After saying that, the woman turned around and was about to leave. However, he had barely taken a few steps before his body went limp and he collapsed to the ground. Chapter 174. He sees that the woman in his arms has a deathly pale complexion, her face full of vicissitudes of life and dust. Her eyes are closed, already unconscious. Yan Haotian couldn't bear it anymore. He raises his head and looks anxiously at Mayan. He opens his mouth to let out an "ah" sound. Ever since the Ghost City's beast-fighting coliseum was avenged, Yan Haotian has been grave and stern, indifferent. He rarely even makes a sound. But now, he seems to be going crazy. His eyes have turned crimson. Mayan teasingly says, "Is this what you meant by don't know?" Yan Haotian hugs the woman with both hands and kneels down with a thud, his eyes full of pleading. Mayan sighs softly, "All right, take her back, I will save her." On the bed, the woman slowly opens her eyes. She's in a daze for a moment, then she suddenly jumps up. Finally awake, a clear and sweet voice suddenly rings out. The woman turns her head and sees a young girl in white pajamas. She's holding a book in her hand, sitting by the candlelight, absent-mindedly looking at her. Under the candlelight, the girl's countenance is indistinct, faintly discernible like a fairy, making people feel ashamed of their inferiority just by looking at her. The woman sadly lowers her head, her face full of desolation. "Tell me, what is your relationship with Yan Haotian? What do you want to do by following us all the way today?" The woman stiffens her neck and coldly says, "Why should I tell you what my relationship with Haotian is?" Mayan smirks, her eyes calmly staring at her, based on the fact that he's my subordinate now. Gah. The woman is dumbfounded. You're not with him. Not that kind of relationship. After the shock, there's an obvious ecstasy. A bright and beautiful smile floats on the woman's face, adding a bit of charm to her originally pale complexion. Oh. What kind of relationship do you think we have? The corner of Mayan's mouth hooks up into a playful smile. I really didn't think that a block of wood like Yen Haotian would actually be liked by someone. The woman's expression turns cold, lowering her voice. Haotian, he's very good. Then, she slows down her tone, almost begging, please tell me, where is Haotian now? Can I see him? How has he been all these years? Before asking if he's doing well, shouldn't you first tell me your identity? Mayan says. The woman was startled. She wiped away her tears and slowly said, my name is Feng Haitang. I was once Haotian's fiancé. With the woman's narration, Mu Yen finally understood the ins and outs of the matter. It turned out that Feng Haitang and Yen Haotian were childhood sweethearts who grew up together. The two families had arranged their marriage long ago. However, just half a year before the Yen clan was ruined, the Feng clan suddenly requested to cancel the engagement between the two clans. He even betrothed Feng Haitang to another man immediately. At the time of the incident, Feng Haitang was traveling with her master and did not know about the annulment of the engagement. By the time she returned, not to mention her marriage with Yen Haotian, even the Yen family would have been completely destroyed. Chapter 175. Feng Haitang. Mu Yen softly reads the name, her brows slightly wrinkling. She felt that the name sounded familiar. Suddenly, she had a flash of inspiration and her expression changed slightly. The man your parents betrothed you to, could it be Zhao Tianxiang, the son of Jing Qing country's formidable great general? Feng Haitang's eyes widened. How did you know? How did she know? An eerie chill flits through Mayan's eyes. It's true that Zhao Tianxiang is the son of Jing Qing country's great general, but this person is a waste without any cultivation talent. Not only was he trash, he was also extremely cruel and tyrannical. His greatest hobby in life was to rape and kill female cultivators who were stronger than him. Among them, the most miserable was Zhao Tianxiang's official wife, Feng Haitang. Because Feng Haitang was the most unruly and stubborn among all of Zhao Tianxiang's women, she was also the most oppressed. In the end, in order to prevent her from committing suicide, Zhao Tianxiang even chopped off her hands and feet and cut off her tongue. Just like that, she lived a life that was neither a human nor a ghost and was humiliated and abused by him every day. Feng Haitang lived like this for 3 whole years before he found an opportunity to commit suicide. In his previous life, it was Gong Qinxue who had arranged the marriage between Feng Haitang and Zhao Tianxiang. At that time, Gong Qinxue's face was full of pity and remorse. She said that she didn't expect Zhao Tianxiang to be this kind of person, saying that she had let Feng Haitang down. Now that he thought about it, all of this, from beginning to end, was arranged by Gong Qinxue. This included the annulment of the engagement between the Feng and Yen families, the annihilation of the Yen family, and the eventual marriage of Feng Haitang to Zhao Tianxiang. In the end, Yen Haotian's family was destroyed and he was sold as a slave. Feng Haitang lived a short life worse than death. Gong Qinxue, on the other hand, obtained a loyal servant, and even obtained great benefits from Zhao Tianxiang's father. Hee. What a ruthless scheme, what a sinister heart. Unknowingly, Mayan's body exudes a fierce and cold aura. Even though Feng Haitang's cultivation wasn't low, her forehead was covered in sweat and she couldn't help but let out a muffled groan. Not far away, a screen shook slightly because of Feng Haitang's muffled groan. Mu Yen abruptly comes back to her senses, restraining the killing intent that surges from her memories. He stared at Feng Haitang, since you're already engaged, why did you come to find Yen Haoyan? I will never marry anyone else. Feng Haitang said resolutely, when I was very young, I swore that I would marry Haoyan and become his wife. The screen not far from the room swayed imperceptibly again. It was just that Feng Haitang was too agitated to notice. Mu Yan glanced at the screen, then continued, even if his face is now covered in scars, his appearance is no longer there. Yes. Feng Haitang nodded without hesitation. No matter what he looks like, Haoyan will always be the one in my heart. Mu Yan, however, is not moved. Instead, she is aggressive, even if his family is ruined and he doesn't have an illustrious family background, and he's still just one of my subordinates. Feng Haitang's eyes were so bright that they seemed to be burning. Haoyan is just Haoyan. It has nothing to do with his family background or status. Even if his tongue is cut off and he can't speak anymore. Or even a cripple in the eyes of others. Feng Haitang's entire body suddenly trembled, and then tears fell down like a broken string of pearls. Chapter 176. Mayan glances at the screen, then looks back at Feng Haitang. He can be said to have nothing now, his body is broken. Do you really not care? I don't care. I don't care at all. Feng Haitang couldn't bear it anymore. She jumps off the bed, stepping barefoot on the ground, and says loudly, Girl, I beg you, tell me where Haoyan is, okay? I just want to see him, I want to stay by his side. Even if he hates me and blames me, I will never leave him. I, Feng Haitang, have set my mind on him in this life. Her hoarse and trembling voice is filled with a resolute determination without any regrets. At this moment, a gentle smile finally emerges on Mayan's face. She glances at the screen, and unhurriedly says, Yen Haoyan, did you hear that? Feng Haitang stares blankly when she hears that. She abruptly turns around and looks at the screen. She sees the screen slightly sway again, and a tall figure slowly walks out from behind it. It's Yen Haoyan. Haoyan. Feng Haitang suddenly throws herself into his arms, tightly hugging him, and lets out a heart-wrenching cry, Haoyan, I finally found you. Don't push me away again, okay? I've really been looking for you for a long time. Yen Haoyan's whole body is stiff, his hands are raised in the air, and he doesn't move for a long time. However, his reddened eyes and trembling muscles betray his current mood. However, after a long time, Yen Haoyan still resolutely pushes Feng Haitang away. The pity, longing, deep love, and longing in his eyes are completely restrained at this moment. Yen Haoyan takes a step back, looking at Feng Haitang with a cold and indifferent expression, shaking his head at a distance. His lips noiselessly open and close, Go, I don't want to see you. Feng Haitang is like being struck by lightning, her tears seem to flow endlessly. She wipes them away, but they keep gushing out. Pain flashes through Yen Haoyan's eyes, but soon after, he clenches his teeth and salutes Mayan. Without hesitation, he turns around and leaves. It's just that, without waiting for him to leave, Mayan's unhurried words almost make him stumble. TSK, now you're pretending to have a heart of stone. When she fainted, don't be so anxious that you kept screaming, begging me to save her. Yen Haoyan stood stiffly on the spot. After a long time, he opened the door in a panic and ran away. Feng Haitang stared blankly at his retreating figure. A hint of joy slowly appeared in her eyes that were originally filled with despair. Could it be that Hao Tian wasn't heartless towards her, but, that blockhead, he just thinks that he's a cripple now, and doesn't deserve you, that's all. Mu Yan said in a timely manner. Yen Haoyan pushed Feng Haitang away with good intentions. However, he had never thought that such an action could possibly push Feng Haitang into an endless hell. Feng Haitang bit her lower lip, her face alternating between happiness and sadness. Suddenly, she faces Mayan and kneels down with a thud. "Miss June, would like to ask a favor of you." "Tell me about it." "I want to recognize you as my master and stay by your side." "Recognize me as your master?" This time, Mu Yan was really surprised. Feng Haitang nods heavily, her eyes brimming with unswerving determination. "You saved Haotian's life from the ghost city. You are Haotian's savior, so you are also my savior. You are Haotian's master, so you are also my master. I beg you to fulfill my wish, let me follow by your side. Even if I have to work like an ox or a horse, I'm willing." She said that she wants to follow by my side, but in fact, she wants to follow by that blockhead Yan Haotian's side. Chapter 177. This is my own decision. Feng Haitang raised her eyebrows, her beautiful face revealing an untamed heroic spirit. "Feng Haitang, have set my sights on him for the rest of my life. No one can oppose me, including himself." Mu Yan couldn't help but chuckle. After wiping away her tears, this Feng Haitang was really indescribably heroic, hardy, and handsome. Such a woman was stubborn and unrestrained. She was not afraid of the secular world and did not have the reserved shyness that belonged to a woman. It was truly rare to find such a woman in this world. But she liked it. "All right, I promise you. From now on, you will stay by my side." Mu Yan slowly says, "Feng Haitang, I promise that as long as you and Yan Haotian are by my side, I will definitely keep you safe and sound." In this lifetime, she hoped that she could use her own strength. He wished for this pair of ill-fated mandarin ducks to be able to live a peaceful and happy life and finally get married. The next day, when Yan Haotian sees Feng Haitang standing beside Mu Yan, a pair of bell-like eyes almost pop out. Mayan finds it funny. "Starting from today, Haitang will be like you, also my subordinate, and will work hard for me for 5 years. "What? You have a problem with that?" Yan Haotian opened his mouth wide, but no sound came out. He only looked at Feng Haitang anxiously. But today, the situation was reversed. Feng Haitang doesn't even look at him, but wraps a silk handkerchief for Mayan and hands it to her. "Miss, please use it." "Ah!" Yan Haotian finally couldn't help but let out a hurried exclamation. Feng Haitang came from a wealthy family and had been the daughter of a wealthy family since she was young. How could she be subservient and serve others for his sake? However, before he could speak, the voices of Ru Yan and Old Tao came from the door, asking to see him. Yan Haotian had no choice but to swallow his words, but his gaze kept darting towards Feng Haitang from time to time. On the other hand, Feng Haitang is looking down, expressionlessly standing behind Mu Yan and Xiao Bao, just like a personal maid. Reporting to Miss, this is the account book for this month's Junji drugstore. Ru Yan hands over a book. Mu Yan casually flipped through it and nodded in satisfaction. "You did very well." Although it's only been half a month since Ru Yan took over Junji drugstore, the results are really good. Nowadays, the shop's income doesn't only come from Mayan's special drafts, but also from other herbs and drafts. But after reporting, Ru Yan and Old Tao didn't leave. Instead, they looked at Mu Yan as if they wanted to say something. "Miss, can we participate in the ink camp's training together?" In the end, it's still Old Tao who can't help but laugh awkwardly. In this half a month, the progress of the dozen or so people from the ink camp is obvious to all. It was not an exaggeration to say that his strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. Seeing Old Tao and Ru Yan's anxious appearance, Mu Yan couldn't help but laugh. "What, are you jealous?" The two of them chuckled, feeling a little embarrassed, but in the end, they still admitted it openly. That Chang Yu only used half a month to break through from the profound stage to the early earth stage. If this matter were to spread out, I'm afraid that all the martial artists in Xia and would be envious. Ru Yen smiled sweetly and said, Miss, we promise that even if we participate in the training, we will not delay the shop's business. However, Mu Yen shook his head, this training is not suitable for you. Chapter 178. Among the 4 people in the room, Ru Yen and Feng Haitang were Earth Stage Intermediate, Yen Haotian was Earth Stage High, and Old Tao was already Earth Stage Peak. What draft? Ru Yen gulps. Mayan hooks up the corner of her lips, a smile that isn't a smile. Oh, it's probably a special draft that's twice as expensive as the filter of barrier breaking. Gulp. Ru Yen and Old Tao both gulped, even Yen Haotian showed a shocked expression. Twice as expensive as the filter of barrier breaking. What kind of heaven-defying draft would that be? After the shock, they were wild with joy. Ru Yen and Old Tao even bowed deeply, subordinates will definitely do their best to serve master. Yen Haotian looks at Feng Haitang, then looks at Mu Yen. His original thought of persuading her to leave had faded. That's because he realizes how powerful this master of his is, and how expensive and heaven-defying the drafts that she provides are. For Haitang to be able to follow Mayan, perhaps it's her good fortune. By the way, Mississippi, Old Tao suddenly stopped smiling foolishly. These 2 days, it seems like there are always strangers loitering around the drugstore. Rather than saying that they want to buy drafts, it would be better to say that they're here to scout. Halfway through his sentence, Old Tao stopped. Because he discovered that Xiao Bao, who was sitting in Mayan's embrace, was looking at him with a face full of disdain. Did he do something wrong? Why did little master look like he was an idiot? Did I say something wrong? Old Tao looked at Xiao Bao cautiously. Xiao Bao pulled a long face and said, Idiot, they've already been wandering around for 5 days. He only realized it now. Old Tao and Ru Yen looked at each other, wishing they could find a hole to hide in. Even the little master, a 4-year-old child, had discovered it, yet they had not. It was only when the other party came closer that he vaguely sensed it. He had lost all his face. Old Tao sweats as he looks at Mayan. Miss, do you need this subordinate to get rid of all these people? Of course not. Mu Yen pinches her son's little face, then she says unhurriedly, these people are the ink camp's best whetstones. If they were disposed of by you, wouldn't it be a big loss? Late at night, the crescent moon was like a hook. In Mayan's boudoir, she and Xiao Bao were sleeping in each other's embrace, having a good dream. He's completely unaware that a group of people have quietly sneaked into Junji Drugstore's backyard. 8 black figures, like ghosts, jumped down from the high roof. Second brother, after observing June Mayan for the past few days, no matter how you look at her, she's just an ordinary alchemist. She's too weak to even stand up to a gust of wind, and she even has a child. Are you sure this woman killed our commander? Humph, you also said that she is an alchemist. Maybe this slut used some despicable method to secretly harm our captain on the war beast stage. What's more, the matter of Commander Yen Lai being killed by this woman was told to us by Princess Chenchue. Princess Chenchue has deep feelings for our commander, how could she possibly deceive us? Since this woman killed our captain, we must avenge him. The 8 people gather together, lowering their voices as they quietly discuss how to silently abduct Mayan and avenge their commander, Yen Lai. Why do I feel that this courtyard is a little strange? Why aren't there any guards? Shanzi, how come your courage is getting smaller and smaller? Among the 8 of us, there are 6 in Earth stage. Don't tell me that we can't even handle a mere apothecary. Pfft. An irrepressible laughter comes from the corner of the courtyard. Chapter 179. Why are you so impatient? Didn't you say you were going to launch a sneak attack? How am I supposed to sneak attack you when you laugh at me like that? Is there a need to launch a sneak attack against this kind of trash? This disdainful laughter, as well as the casual words that don't put them in their eyes, made the Raging Inferno mercenary group feel as if they were facing a great enemy. Who are you? Come out. Oh no, there's an ambush in this courtyard. Amidst the ruckus, Chang-Yu stood up from the bushes, waved his hand and said, "Don't fucking hide, just attack." Okay. With a shout, 10 people scurried out in a flash, surrounding the 8 people of the Raging Inferno mercenary group. The people of the Raging Inferno mercenary group were first startled, but when they discovered the cultivation level of the people surrounding them, they couldn't help but laugh out loud. After boasting so much, I thought they were some powerful figures. So they're just a bunch of fucking rabble. There are more than 10 of them, but only 2 of them have reached the Earth stage. And they still want to fight with us. You're overestimating yourself. The only man in the Raging Inferno mercenary group who is at the peak of Earth stage waves his hand, his eyes revealing an ominous glint. Brothers, let's go. Kill this group of trash, that June Mayan will still be ours. I heard that bitch is a great beauty. Whoever kills the most people tonight, that bitch will be rewarded to you, and you can play with her for the night. Boss is mighty. The people of the Raging Inferno mercenary group laugh and laugh heartily as they take the lead to attack, completely not putting the people of the Ink camp in their eyes. The corner of Chang-Yu's mouth hooks up into a cold smile. He says in a clear voice, "Brothers of the Ink camp, let this group of idiots know how powerful we are. Kill." The crescent moon was like a hook, and the night was cool. However, the small courtyard was filled with a chilling killing intent. From time to time, there would be screams and howls of pain. Time passed very slowly. After an entire hour, this battle finally came to an end. Of the 8 people from the Raging Inferno mercenary group, 7 of them were lying on the ground, groaning in pain, unconscious, or with their heads separated from their bodies. The only one who could still stand was the peak of the Earth realm. He was aghast and couldn't believe what had just happened. On the other hand, the dozen or so people from the Ink camp. Apart from a few cultivators who were injured, there were almost no casualties. Chang-Yu still had a head in his hand as he stared coldly at the remaining soldiers. Who are you people? Why was it that a mere group of profound-level ancient martial art practitioners could cause the elites of the Raging Inferno mercenary group to be unable to retaliate? Not to mention that he, Zhao Shan, was at the peak of the Earth rank, the 3rd in command of the Raging Inferno mercenary group. However, he was actually beaten by this motley crew to the point where he was unable to retaliate. How was this possible? Each and every one of the people from the Ink camp shows a sinister smile. Someone even licked the blood at the corner of his mouth and said excitedly, "Damn it, I've been training every day for the past few days and have been tortured like a dog. Today, I can finally vent my frustrations on these bastards." As expected, I still like the feeling of crushing my opponents the most. But I have to say, Miss June is really too awesome. It's only been a short half-month of training, and our Ink camp is actually able to get rid of a group of peak Earth stages. Chang-Yu tossed the head away and wiped his bloody hands on his face. Chapter 180. He waves his hand and says, "Brothers, let's kill him." The little master said that as long as we perfectly complete the test today, he would reward us with new drafts, guaranteeing that each of us would advance within a year. Zhao Shan's eyes are filled with amazement. The cultivation of these dozen people in front of him really isn't high. However, they follow orders and prohibitions, advancing and retreating together, as if they're one person. The battle has just begun, but the 8 of them are forced to disperse, except for Chang-Yu who's holding him back. The other brothers are surrounded and strangled one by one, and it could be said that they don't have the strength to fight back. The most frightening thing is the internal force that these people use in battle. They're obviously only profound stage, but they're completely unafraid of the pressure of an earth stage, and even suppress them instead. And such a team is actually single-handedly created by June Mayan. At this moment, a thought suddenly flashes past Zhao Shan's ears. June Mayan killed Commander Yan Lai in front of everyone in the Ghost City's beast-fighting coliseum. He always thought that this was just a rumor, that June Mayan had used a crafty plot. But what if this matter was true? A person that even Commander Yan Lai, a peak heaven stage, isn't his match. How could they possibly kill him? So, in tonight's operation, they've come to throw away their lives from the beginning. Thinking of this, Zhao Shan's courage is almost broken, and he turns around to flee. Chang Yu and the others didn't expect that this expert at the peak of Earth stage wouldn't even dare to fight them properly, and would just run away with his tail between his legs. They see that figure cross over the wall, heading towards the neighboring courtyard. Chang Yu and the others shiver inwardly. We mustn't let him escape, let's chase. However, without waiting for the ink camp to act, a figure flits past like a stream of light, following Zhao Shan over the wall, and falls into the neighboring courtyard. Chang Yu and the others stare blankly. That figure just now was too fast, they simply couldn't see who it was. They're hesitating whether or not to follow and take a look. A childish voice suddenly comes from behind them. Tonight, your performance was pretty good. The ink camp people turn around, and under the moonlight, they see a handsome fairy-like little boy, expressionlessly looking at them. The bright moonlight falls on his body, as if it's sprinkling his whole body with silver light. The dozen or so people from the ink camp feel it, and they uniformly kneel down, shouting, "Greetings, little master." When they realized that Xiao Bao was praising them, they were shocked. These boorish butchers were so excited that their eyes turned red and their bodies trembled. They wanted nothing more than to howl at the sky. Only Chang Yu was able to keep his composure. "Little master, there's a thief who ran to the courtyard next door." "We need to." "There's no need," Xiao Bao interrupted him. "Nyangqin has already gone over." "Ho!" The people of the ink camp simultaneously suck in a mouthful of cold air, then they observe a moment of silence for the fish that escaped the net. If Miss June were to personally take action, his fate would definitely be incomparably miserable. Xiao Bao couldn't help but frown slightly as he gazed in the direction of the courtyard with a slightly dazed expression. Actually, he also wanted to take a look at that courtyard. That man seemed to have not appeared for a long time. Zhao Shan fled to the neighboring courtyard in a sorry state. He was worried that he had entered another place full of tigers and wolves. But she finds that the courtyard next to Junji Drugstore is completely empty. There's not even the sound of chickens crowing and dogs barking. There was no one chasing after him. Zhao Shan let out a long sigh of relief. This time, he had finally escaped death. Chapter 181. Did Gong Qinshue ask you to come? This voice can be said to be very pleasing to the ear, but Zhao Shan's hair stands on end. He says with a trembling voice, "Who? Come out. Quickly come out." Not far away, there's a flash of light. Under the moonlight, a young girl in black slowly walks over. The hazy night can't hide her devastatingly beautiful appearance. Especially that pair of eyes that seem to be angry and happy at the same time, distant and enchanting. Just looking at those eyes, Zhao Shan's whole body stiffens, unable to move. Until the girl slowly walks in front of him. So close that he can see the girl's delicate and flawless ice skin, so close that he can see the girl's long and dense fan-like eyelashes. And when those eyelashes blink, a cold glint flows out. Zhao Shan suddenly has a flash of inspiration and blurts out, "You're the one who killed our leader, June Mayan." Mayan looks at him with a smile that isn't a smile. "So you're from the Raging Inferno mercenary group. Visiting my small courtyard in the middle of the night, what do you want?" You killed our leader, Yen Lai. I'm here for revenge. Mayan shakes her head and sighs. Who told you that Yen Lai is dead? What? Princess Chinchua clearly said that you killed him. Do you believe whatever Gong Chinchua says? A lily-white hand gently rests on his shoulder and Mayan chuckles. Go to the waste disposal center near the east gate of the ghost city, maybe you can still see your leader there. Zhao Shan's pupils fiercely contract. Is what you said true? If you don't believe me, why don't you go and see for yourself? Zhao Shan is even more alarmed and suspicious. You're willing to let me go? Mayan spreads out her hands, her smile bright and full of temptation. Go ahead. Zhao Shan swallows, finally unable to resist the temptation. He turns around and leaves. He doesn't notice that there's a faintly discernible silver powder on his shoulder. This powder is the latest draft that Mayan has refined. This draft won't take effect on Zhao Shan himself, but it will take effect on the people he's been in contact with. Moreover, the effect of its effects is very interesting. If Zhao Shan finds Yen Lai and knows the truth of Gong Chinchua saving Yen Lai, he would certainly go back and question Gong Chinchua, right? There's a smile on Mayan's face, but there's no trace of a smile in her eyes. What Gong Chinchua owed her in her previous life, she would take it back bit by bit, with interest. Gently blowing away the remaining powder in her hand, Mayan is about to leave when she suddenly stops. Because she also discovered that this courtyard was terrifyingly empty. There was not a single trace of smoke or fire. Mu Yan frowns slightly and can't help but walk into the house. She pushed open the front door of the living room, and the dust on the beams fell down. Mu Yan's fingers lightly slide over the dusty table. It must have been at least half a month since it was inhabited, right? So, Di Mingju had already left. Without a word or greeting, he came and went as he pleased. Mu Yan stood there in a daze for a long time. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth rose, revealing a somewhat self-deprecating smile. They were strangers who met by chance and had nothing to do with each other. Come and go as you please. Wasn't it obvious? What is her relationship with Di Mingju? Why did that man need to inform her before he left? It was just that they had never met before, and there was no chance for them to meet again. Mayan flicks her sleeve, turns around, and floats away. Chapter 182. Jun Shang had originally said that he would be back in half a month at the latest. However, half a month has passed and Jun Shang still shows no signs of waking up. Did something happen to the Shushan continent? A noise suddenly comes from above. Han Yi looks up and hears Miss Mayan's voice. Should I go up and tell Miss Mayan that Jun Shang has something to do and hasn't returned? But after thinking about it, Han Yi still restrains himself and remains by Di Mingju's side. Right now, the most important thing to him was Jun Shang's safety. Han Yi doesn't know that in the near future, because of this decision of his, he would want nothing more than to kill himself. As the reputation of the special drafts that Mayan refined spreads throughout Xi'an, coupled with Miss Ru Yan's proper management, Junji Drugstore's business is becoming more and more prosperous. Even when there's no special drafts for sale, it's still packed with people. However, it was different from the hustle and bustle of the shop outside. At this moment, the small courtyard behind him was very quiet. In the space, the green grass was lush and the breeze was gentle. The fat rabbit rolled over on the grass and couldn't help but raise its head and look into the distance. His bean-like eyes blinked, revealing a trace of doubt. What were the little master and the female devil doing? Why was there a huge cauldron in front of them? The fat rabbit tilts its head and suddenly sits up. It hops towards Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's direction. Mother, the only thing I can refine now is the clear heart pill. This is the sky heart flower, this is the crow tongue orchid, and there are 9 three-tailed wind leaves. Xiao Bao's little face is taut as he seriously and rigorously places the required herbs in front of Mayan. Mu Yan's line of sight shifts from the pill recipe in her hand to her son's face. She gently pinches his little face. "Thank you, Xiao Bao." Looking at the furnace in front of her and the draft ingredients on the side, Mayan slightly frowns. There's a trace of hesitation. The current her, in terms of refining drafts, can already be said to have reached great heights. But alchemy was a domain that she had never come into contact with before. Elixirs and draft, there's only a difference of one word, but the difference is like heaven and earth. It could be said that in the Yanwu continent, there are a lot of apothecaries, but alchemists are few and far between. The reason was none other than the fact that one needed a special inheritance to concoct pills. Without that mysterious inheritance, even if you obtained the formula, you would not be able to succeed. But Mu Yan slightly narrows her eyes. With a wave of her hand, the burning match drops down, and the bottom of the pill furnace immediately ignites. It was said that one could not refine pills without inheritance. But she refused to believe it. Especially when he thought of Gong Qinchua and Jian Feng in his previous life. Thinking about how she and her child were going to be refined into pills by Jian Feng. The hatred in her heart surged like a torrential river. In this life, she wanted Gong Qinchua and Jian Feng to die without a burial place, and even more so, she wanted them to lose all their standing and reputation, and lose everything. "Mother." Little Bao's voice sounded in her ear. "It's time for you to release the Skyheart flower." Mu Yan comes back to her senses, the coldness and killing intent in her eyes receding like a tide, turning into gentleness. Later, when Mother is refining, Xiao Bao should stay far away. You mustn't let yourself get hurt, understand? This time, Xiao Bao did not act stubbornly and obediently nodded. As the temperature of the Dan furnace gets higher and higher, Mayan cautiously puts the herbs into the furnace. The next step was the most important one. He melted all the herbs according to their order and then fused them together. Chapter 183. Mayan sits cross-legged next to the Dan furnace. The internal force within her body slowly revolves, sending it into the furnace. As the qi merged with the alchemic fire, the originally orange-red flame was dyed with a trace of blue. And the drafts in the furnace also begin to melt one by one. Xiao Bao stood in the distance, staring at Mu Yan with wide eyes, his big ice-blue eyes filled with worry. He doesn't know when, but the fat rabbit has also hopped to his side, rubbing against his feet, then tilting its head to watch Mayan's movements. All the herbs have completely melted, and Mayan's forehead is already faintly sweating. But her expression did not change in the slightest, and the profound energy output was incomparably stable. Mysterious energy controls the flame, and the flame forms a wave of air, beginning to fuse the different drafts together. He was about to succeed. But suddenly, there was a loud bang, and a mushroom cloud rose in the air. A huge air wave surged out. Mu Yan quivered and quickly turned around. She hugged Xiao Bao and jumped more than 10 meters away. However, the aftershock of the furnace's explosion still affected her body. In an instant, the mother and daughter, as well as the rabbit, were all covered in dust. Mu Yan coughed, looked at the pill furnace that had already exploded into pieces not far away, and sighed. As expected, it did not succeed. If alchemy was that easy, then Yanwu continent's alchemists wouldn't be so scarce. Xiao Bao doesn't care about his little face that has been blackened, and promptly comforts Mayan. Nyangqin will succeed one day. The fat rabbit shook its fat body and shook its fur. He raised his mung-bean eyes and looked at the female demon and his young master. Should he tell the female devil that alchemy required spiritual power? You can't refine pills just by relying on profound qi. The fat rabbit jumped and was about to jump into Xiao Bao's bosom. Suddenly, a loud noise came from outside the space. What's going on? Why was there so much smoke in the backyard? Is there a fire somewhere? Where are Miss June and young master? Who was the arsonist? Could it be that those thieves haven't given up and are coming to attack us again? Hey, the smoke is coming from Mrs. Room, but I don't see anyone. Nothing was burned down. What the hell is going on? In the space, Xiao Bao and Mu Yen looked at each other. Cough, baby, how about Nyangqin take you out to eat? Mu Yen asked with a smile. However, at this moment, her face was covered in dust. When she smiled, only her pearly white teeth could be seen. Her eyes were bright and beautiful, but she no longer had the beauty that could topple cities. Xiao Bao is the same. On his originally fair and handsome little face, only a pair of big and watery blue eyes are left, looking at Mayan. It was indescribably cute. Mu Yen couldn't help but burst out laughing, then couldn't help but shake her head. This Tian Mo Qin hasn't been upgraded, the stability of the space is too poor. A random explosion actually caused thick smoke to leak out. If the group of people in the courtyard knew that the thick smoke was caused by her failure in alchemy, Mu Yen feels that she can't afford to lose this person. Xia and City, guest restaurant. At noon, the restaurant was full of guests, and it was very lively. The guests gathered in twos and threes, chatting as they ate. Suddenly, a soft cry came from the door, causing everyone in the hall to look over. At the door, a group of 3 people strolled in. The 3 of them were all dressed in white, with long swords hanging from their waists. Behind them were a man and a woman. The man was handsome, and the woman was beautiful. Chapter 184. They don't know why, but they can't even see this youth's face. Most people's gazes are still involuntarily drawn to him. Because this man's temperament is extraordinary and refined, cold and clear. Standing in the crowd, he's like a crane in a flock of chickens. Even if he doesn't reveal his face, people still can't help but stare at him. Look at the jade card on their waists, these people are Ziyang Zong's disciples. Could it be the Ziyang Zong that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Heavenly Road sect in Huangyao? The Ziyang Zong that produced the heaven's prideful son, Bai Chen. The chatter of the crowd reaches Shen Xiaorou's ears. Feeling everyone's envious gazes on the 3 of them, her face shows a proud expression. Her gaze involuntarily falls on the masked youth, her eyes brimming with adoration and love. How could these ordinary people know? The person standing before them is the famous, dustless swordsman Bai Chen in Yanwu continent. And she is Bai Chen's junior sister. Every day, she can get along with this celestial-like man. Thinking of this, Shen Xiaorou's smile becomes even more charming. She steps forward and takes Bai Chen's hand. Senior brother, look over there. There's an empty seat, let's sit there. But before she could finish speaking, the youth coldly withdraws his hand and goes straight to the empty seat. Shen Xiaorou stomps her feet, then promptly follows. Arriving in front of Bai Chen, she immediately shows a charming and flattering smile. Senior brother, what do you want to eat? I heard that this restaurant's signature dish is very good, however, Bai Chen still doesn't pay attention to her. On the contrary, there's a faint worry in his eyes. Senior brother, don't worry too much. Another white-clothed youth, Gao Chenyu, comforts, Lin Jr.'s sister is a virtuous person, heaven helps her, she will definitely turn misfortune into fortune. As soon as Shen Xiaorou hears the 3 words Lin's senior sister, she immediately grits her teeth. Only after a long while does she suppress the disgust in her heart, saying in a sweet voice, maybe it's because it's Xidong's first time leaving the sect, and she thought it was fun, so she forgot the time. Senior brother, you're so tired of worrying about her here, it's really too. Before she could finish her words, Bai Chen's cold gaze swept over her, immediately causing her to shiver, not daring to continue speaking. Gao Qinyu immediately retorts, "Junior sister Lin has always been particularly well-behaved and sensible. How could she disappear for so many days without a word of warning? Do you think it's you?" Shen Xiaoro is so angry that her nose is crooked. She fiercely glares at Gao Qinyu, then looks aggrieved at Bai Chen. Unfortunately, both of them ignored her. Shen Xiaoro was so angry that she fiercely flicked her sleeves, but her hand accidentally hit a passerby. Then, he heard a clear and melodious voice, "Manager, bring me all of your signature dishes, quickly." Shen Xiaoro withdrew her hand, only to discover that her snow-white sleeves were covered in dust. When he turned around, he saw two dusty beggars, one big and one small, sitting not far from his table. The dust on her clothes was from the two beggars. Shen Xiaoro originally had a belly full of anger, but she couldn't vent it on Bai Chen. Right now, she finally found an outlet to vent. "Where did these beggars come from? Do you have eyes? Do you know how much this lady's heavenly silkworm snow robe is worth? If I dirty it, can you two poor beggars pay for it?" Chapter 185. This scream immediately attracts the attention of everyone in the restaurant. And at the next table, Mayan finally realizes that this shrill and noisy voice, like that of a fly, is cursing her and Xiao Bao. TSK, they are actually regarded as beggars. Although the clothes they were wearing now were quite shabby. Mayan raises her head with a smile that isn't a smile, and looks towards the source of the voice. However, when she sees that woman's appearance, she can't help but raise her eyebrows. It's really a small world, ah. She didn't expect that she would run into an acquaintance when she casually brought her baby out for a meal. Shen Xiaoro, the precious daughter of her adoptive father and mother. In her previous life, Mayan was bullied a lot by this young lady when she was in the Shen family. Even when she was schemed against, lost her innocence, and became pregnant with Xiao Bao, it was all inextricably linked to this woman and her mother. Shen Xiaoro can't help but stare blankly at Mayan's eyes that are as bright as stars. She didn't expect that this dirty beggar would have such a pair of beautiful eyes. Moreover, these eyes are very similar to that of the woman she loathed in those days. This makes Shen Xiaoro's attitude even worse. "What are you looking at? Still not getting out? Is this a place where a filthy thing like you should come to? Really shameless, you want to freeload for food and drink, right? Shopkeeper, what are you still staring at, still not kicking her out for me?" This arrogant and despotic appearance makes the surrounding diners shake their heads again and again. Even Gao Qinyu can't help but say, "Shen Xiaoro, restrain yourself." On the other hand, Bai Chen has a calm expression from beginning to end, but his probing eyes can't help but size up Mayan and Xiao Bao. "Restrain what?" Shen Xiaoro angrily says, "Did I say something wrong? Two beggars sitting next to us, won't that affect our appetite? What if Chen brother isn't happy eating? Shen Xiaoro, you're really, as overbearing and selfish as ever." A sigh with a chuckle comes. Shen Xiaoro stares blankly. She suddenly turns her head to look at Mayan, her expression cloudy and uncertain. "You, how do you know my name? Who are you?" Wait, this woman's eyes, and her voice, they're all so familiar. It's almost exactly the same as that hateful woman in her impression. Shen Xiaoro's pupils suddenly shrink, and she screams, "June Mayan. You are June Mayan." Mayan chuckles, "Congratulations, you guessed it right." Shen Xiaoro glared at her. "Why are you here? Didn't you die with my aunt and the others?" 5 years ago, news came from the Su family. The Su family's small courtyard in the nameless valley was burned down overnight. There were several charred corpses inside, and their faces could no longer be recognized. In the end, she was able to identify from some clues that her aunt, cousin, cousin-in-law, cousin-sister, and Mayan were burned to death inside. But why would Mayan, who should have been dead for 5 years, appear here? Mu Yen says unhurriedly, "It seems that you really hope that I'm dead. I'm sorry to disappoint you." Shinxiao's expression was cloudy and uncertain. His gaze suddenly fell on Xiaobao. She was stunned at first, then her eyes widened as if she suddenly remembered something. She said loudly, "This is the little bastard you gave birth to with a wild man when you were pregnant before marriage." Mayan's line of sight suddenly darkens, there's a trace of coldness in her eyes, a trace of haze. Chapter 186. Shinxiao sees her complexion and thinks that she has touched her sore spot. Her complexion immediately turns from gloomy to sunny, and she chuckles, "I really didn't expect it, June Mayan, that year. Not only did you not die, you even secretly hid away and gave birth to this little vile spawn. TSK. You even made yourself so miserable. Don't tell me you've been relying on begging and swindling to support yourself and your son all these years." Shinxiao's scream just now had already attracted the attention of most people. At this time, he hears her say that Mayan got pregnant out of wedlock and gave birth to a little bastard with a wild man. All of a sudden, each and every one of them looked at Mayan with a somewhat subtle expression. Even that Gao Qinyu originally wanted to pull Shinxiao back, so that she wouldn't be so excessive. When he heard those words, he could not help but be stunned. Even though Mu Yan is currently covered in dirt and dust, judging from her voice and figure, she is at most 18 or 19 years old. He actually had such a big child. Seeing this, Shinxiao becomes more and more complacent. With a face full of pity, she says, "June Mayan, although you and I aren't related by blood, in any case, you've been raised in my Shin family for several years. Nominally, we can also be considered sisters. Seeing you living so miserably, as your elder sister, I also feel very sorry. How about this, you take this money. At least it will be enough for you and your son to have a full meal." After that, he casually threw 2 gold coins on the table, his expression as if he was dismissing a beggar. "Here, these 2 gold coins should be enough for you to eat your fill, right? Waiter, what are you waiting for? Get her some food and let them go out to eat." Who knew that the waiter who was pointed at by Shinxiao would reveal a hesitant expression? This customer, you just ordered all of our restaurant's signature dishes. What kind of people had they not seen in a big restaurant like the Guest-Come restaurant? It was very common to see a high-level martial artist who was dressed in rags but could take out a huge fortune. Therefore, although Mu Yan and Xiaobao were dirty, the waiter did not judge them by their appearance at all. Instead, he immediately followed her instructions and asked the kitchen to prepare all the signature dishes of the restaurant. Almost as soon as the waiter finished speaking, someone brought a few dishes over. Just the value of these 2 dishes exceeded the value of all the dishes on Shinxiao's table. Because these dishes were actually made with the meat of exotic beasts. Mu Yan leisurely smiled and pulled Xiaobao to sit down. She casually picked up the chopsticks and was about to start eating. "Since big sister wants to show your sisterly affection, then I won't stand on ceremony. Today's meal, I'll treat it as big sister treating me. Xiaobao, eat more. Someone's paying anyway. It'll be a waste if you don't eat." Xiaobao nodded with a taut face. Then, he picked up his chopsticks and gave some to Mu Yan before he began to eat seriously with puffed cheeks. When Shinxiao saw this scene, she was so angry that her nose was crooked. "June Mayan, you slut. You want me to pay for your food? In your dreams. I didn't expect you to become so shameless after so many years." Mayan ordered all the signature dishes of Kulai restaurant, and the prices of those dishes aren't low at all. Even if Shinsharo took out all the gold coins she had, she still wouldn't be able to afford it. But as it happened, Mu Yen, this shameless slut, had taken her by surprise. Want her to pay for her meal? Dream on. Chapter 187. This. Hearing Shinsharu's words, the waiter also revealed a trace of embarrassment, and looked at Mu Yen with some hesitation. Mu Yen looks up and is about to speak. Unexpectedly, Bai Chen stood up and slowly said, "I'll pay for this young lady." After saying that, he waved his hand and a bag of money flew in front of the waiter. Are these enough? The waiter didn't even need to open it. Just by weighing the weight, he immediately smiled. It's enough. Thank you, young master. As for the rest of the dishes, we will definitely deliver them to this young lady as soon as possible. Mu Yen raises her head to look at Bai Chen, and she can't help but raise her brows again. What a coincidence. It was another familiar face. Even Little Treasure, who was sitting at the side, whispered, "Rabbit Lantern." Yes, the masked white-clothed young man before him was the person who'd given the rabbit lantern to Little Bao during the Lantern Festival. Seeing Mayan looking at him, Bai Chen slightly cupped his hands towards her. Based on his actions, it was obvious that he recognized them. Mu Yen couldn't help but chuckle, raising the wine cup in her hand and shaking it. Thank you very much. Even though the young lady in front of him was covered in dust, her radiance could not be concealed. Then, Xiao Bao also raised his teacup and shook it from afar. His posture was exactly the same as Mu Yan's. Thank you. Bai Chen couldn't help but curl his lips when he saw Xiao Bao acting like a little adult. Gao Chenyu sees the smile on the corner of Bai Chen's mouth that's exposed outside the mask. It's as if he's seen a ghost. Senior brother Ichen actually smiled. Don't look at how Bai Chen is recognized as a genius in the Yanwu continent. He's never been high-spirited or carried away with pride. Ever since he was young, he rarely smiled. Even in front of junior sister Lin Sidong, he only smiled occasionally. After junior sister Lin went missing, her temperament became even colder. But who would have thought that today, senior brother Ichen would actually smile at a beggar-like girl and a dirty child? Gao Chenyu saw this rare smile. How could Shinsharo, who was always paying attention to Bai Chen, not miss it? Her originally pretty face contorted into a hideous grimace at this moment. Jun Mayan. Jun Mayan, this slut, is really a shameless vixen. 5 years ago, she had seduced all the men around her and made them lose their souls. Now, after 5 years, she had given birth to a bastard and had even become a filthy beggar, yet she still had such foxy skills. Jun Mayan, do you still have any shame? You actually let my senior brother pay for you. You actually dared to seduce my senior brother. I will tear your face apart. Shinsharo couldn't bear it anymore. She takes a vigorous step forward and raises her hand to grab Mayan's face. Ah! Be careful. The crowd cried out involuntarily. Gao Chenyu cried out in alarm, Shinsharo, quickly stop, don't go too far. Everyone thought that Mu Yen would be very miserable. Because Shinsharo was a disciple of the Ziyang school. However, before Shinsharo's palm could land, Xiao Bao lightly swung the bone in his hand. Bang! There was a loud noise. Shinsharo's body flew out and heavily hit one of the tables. The guests at that table screamed and backed away from their seats. Shinsharo, on the other hand, was curled up on the ground, holding her forehead that was full of blood. She cried out and couldn't get up for a long time. Everyone in the restaurant has a stupefied look on their faces. They don't know what happened at all. Why did Shinsharo want to beat Mayan, and Mayan was fine, but she herself flew out? Chapter 188. Only Bai Chen's thoughtful gaze swept over Mu Yan and Xiao Bao, and a trace of understanding flashed through his eyes. Shen Xiaorou struggled to get up from the ground, her eyes almost spitting fire. At this moment, she no longer looked like the ethereal woman she had when she first entered the shop. There was a cut on her forehead and blood was flowing all over her face. His white clothes were stained with food and grease. No matter how one looked at it, he looked so pathetic and funny. Some people could not help but burst out laughing. "Ah! Bitch, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Shen Xiaorou couldn't bear it anymore. She pulled out the long sword from her waist and ruthlessly slashed at him. However, before she could swing her sword, her wrist was grabbed by someone. She did not know when Bai Chen had appeared beside her. He looked at her coldly. "Have you had enough? Haven't you lost enough face for the Purple Sun sect?" Shen Xiaorou could be unruly and willful in front of anyone, but in front of Bai Chen, she did not dare to be rash. However, the more Bai Chen protects Mu Yan, the more she hates Mu Yan. "Senior brother, do you know who this bitch is? She is our Shen family's adopted daughter, Jun Mayan." In the Shen family and the Su family, there was no one who did not know that this slut was fickle and shameless. She actually went out for a trip and had an illicit affair with a man and even got pregnant with a bastard. My aunt and her family were kind enough to take her in, but they didn't expect that she would set fire to my aunt and secretly run away. All these years, I wonder how many men she's been with to be able to support herself and that bastard. Shen Xiaorou gnashed her teeth and said, "Now that she is in such dire straits, she must have been abandoned by her wild man, so she has been reduced to a beggar. Senior brother, this woman is very cunning. You must not be deceived by her." Shen Xiaorou's words made Bai Chen's face turn even uglier. He flung her hand away. However, before he could speak, a graceful figure of a woman hurriedly walked in from the door. Upon seeing this woman, someone instantly cried out in surprise, it's Miss Ru Yan. It's really Junji Drugstore's Miss Ru Yan. Miss Ru Yan, why have you come? Does Junji Drugstore have any extra special drafts for sale today?" The woman who came in had a rosy face and rosy cheeks. Who else could it be but Ru Yan? In Xia, and who doesn't know Ru Yan? That's the Ghost City's Beast Fighting Coliseum's ghost envoys who are in charge of presiding over the fights. Moreover, he is now the shopkeeper of Junji Drugstore, the hottest pharmacy in Xia. In Xia, and which practitioner doesn't want to curry favor with her, hoping to buy a bottle of special draft from her hands? Even when Gao Qinyu sees Ru Yan, he also rushes over in pleasant surprise. He respectfully greets her, "Miss Ru Yan, nice to meet you." They came to Xia, and this time, in addition to aimlessly searching for the missing junior sister Lin Sidong. It's also because he heard that in Xia, and there are some drafts that can break through bottlenecks for sale. Bai Chen himself did not need it. But Gao Qinyu and Shen Xiaorou have already been stuck in their respective bottlenecks for a long time. If he could get a bottle of filter of barrier breaking, that would be a great fortune. Unfortunately, the special drafts in Junji Drugstore are really too hard to buy. So much so that even though they booked it for a month, they still couldn't get it. Chapter 189. As soon as she said that, the surrounding people looked at Shen Xiaorou as if they were looking at a fool. The filter of barrier breaking that was auctioned for 10 million gold coins in the Ghost City, and this person actually wants to buy it for 1 million gold coins. I'm not dreaming, right? Gao Qinyu feels even more ashamed, wishing he could find a hole in the ground to crawl into. This Shen Xiaorou had always been ignorant and incompetent, and she was also arrogant and conceited. She was obviously stupid to death, but she still thought that she was smart and beautiful. They want to buy other people's drafts, but they didn't even clearly inquire about the price, causing him and senior brother Chen to lose face together. However, Ru Yan clearly didn't have the mood to fuss about it with any of them at this moment. An anxious look appeared on her delicate face. She pushed away Shen Xiaoro, who was blocking her way, and hurriedly walked inside. When he sees Mu Yan and Xiao Bao sitting in the corner, he immediately smiles. "Miss, little Gongzi, you're really here, that's great. We were very worried when we couldn't find you in the house." When Mu Yan and Xiao Bao raise their heads, they see their current sorry state. Ru Yan, on the other hand, was dumbfounded. "Me? Miss, little Gongzi, how did you become like this?" Both of them were black, but their eyes were still bright and enchanting. If not for the familiar figure and aura, she would not have recognized him. Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind. "That, miss, could it be that the thick smoke in your room is, ahem?" Mu Yan coughs a few times, interrupting Ru Yan's words. He touched his nose awkwardly. When she was refining pills in her space, her furnace exploded. Because she felt ashamed, she didn't even change her clothes or wash her face before she escaped with little Bao. He did not expect that Ru Yan and the others would actually find their way here. She cleared her throat and was about to speak. Suddenly, Shen Xiaoro's sharp yell cut in from the side. "Miss Ru Yan, did you get the wrong person? Why did he call her miss? She's just a lowly beggar who gave birth to a bastard child with a wild man. How could she be your miss?" Ru Yan's face immediately darkened. She raised her hand and gave Shen Xiaoro a fierce slap. "Who gave you the courage to humiliate our miss?" This slap caused Shen Xiaoro to retreat several steps. Half of his face immediately swelled up. But she still had a dull look on her face as she looked at Ru Yan in disbelief. Not to mention Shen Xiaoro, everyone in the restaurant was dumbfounded. Ru Yan said that Mayan is her miss. Then wouldn't she be the owner of Junji Drugstore? In other words, the godly apothecary who refines those special drafts with sky-high prices. But how was that possible? In the past half a month, he was the hottest, the most mysterious, the most heaven-defying apothecary that many people yearned to climb up to. How could he be such a sloppy beggar? Moreover, she was a promiscuous woman who had an affair with a man early on, got pregnant out of wedlock, and gave birth to a bastard. Shen Xiaoro suddenly came back to her senses. She couldn't suppress it any longer and screamed, "Are you kidding me? How could this slut be that god-level apothecary? Jun Mayan, do you think that by finding someone to use as a cover and raise your own identity, you can deceive everyone? I'm telling you, stop dreaming. I've long since thoroughly investigated your background. If you're really a god-rank apothecary, then I, Shen Xiaoro, will crawl out of this guest arrival restaurant today." Ru Yan was practically seething with anger. Chapter 190. Today, she must ruthlessly teach them a lesson. However, before Ru Yan could make her move, more than a dozen people enter the restaurant's entrance in a single file. Seeing these people, everyone in the audience simultaneously sucks in a mouthful of cold air. God, who are these people that came in? Yan Haotian, Chen Qingfeng, Old Tao, which one of them isn't a celebrity in Junji Drugstore? The rest, there's a glamorous beauty with a graceful figure. There are also more than a dozen fiends, burly men that can make people tremble with fear with just a glance. Gulp. Someone swallows their saliva, their eyes round. What's going on here? The people of Junji Drugstore all ran here. As soon as Ru Yan sees these people, she immediately calls out in delight, "Hai Tang, Old Tao, Qingfeng, Miss is here." More than a dozen people quickly arrive in front of Mayan and Xiao Bo Yan Haotian, Feng Hai Tang, Old Tao, and Chen Qingfeng slightly bow, "Greetings to Miss." The dozen or so people from the Ying camp simultaneously bow down, greetings to Miss June, greetings to the little master. The entire restaurant is deathly silent, one could hear a pin drop. Only the rumbling roars of those dozen or so people reverberate. Gao Qinyu is dumbfounded. After a long while, he turns to look at Bai Chen. He grabs his sleeve and says in a trembling voice, "SS senior brother, that beggar is actually that god-level apothecary." Bai Chen's eyes slightly move, a strange light flashes through his calm eyes. He already knew that Mayan's strength is very strong and not simple, but he didn't expect that it would actually be this extraordinary. Shen Xiaoro is completely dumbfounded. Her pair of eyes unwaveringly stare at the respectful people of Junji Drugstore, and then look at June Mayan. How is this possible? How is this possible? That June Mayan who had nothing, was driven to the Su family by her, suffered all kinds of abuse in the Su family, and even ended up having an illicit relationship with a wild man under her and her cousin's scheme, and got pregnant with a vile spawn. How could she be the owner of Junji Drugstore? How could she be a god-level apothecary? Mayan swallows the last mouthful of food, brushes off the dust on her clothes, and stands up. It's just that, her clothes have long been charred from the explosion of the furnace. Feng Haitang immediately looks at the shop assistant. "Can I trouble you for a basin of water and a clean towel?" Although it was a request, Feng Haitang's face was expressionless. Her incomparably beautiful face was cold, but it added to her charm and charm. The waiter of the restaurant swallowed his saliva and nodded repeatedly. He quickly turned around and brought clean warm water and a cloth towel. Feng Haitang and Ru Yen immediately stepped forward. One attends to Mu Yen, and the other attends to Xiao Bao. Chen Qingfeng and Old Tao were even smarter. They rushed out of the restaurant and bought 2 sets of clothes from the nearest boutique. The dirt on his face was washed away bit by bit. He took off his outer robe and put on a luxurious robe with fluttering sleeves. When Ru Yen and Feng Haitang retreat, Mu Yen and Xiao Bao's true appearances are once again revealed. Everyone in the audience was so shocked that their eyeballs nearly popped out of their sockets. So beautiful. The godly apothecary whose name shakes Xia and is actually such a bright and moving beauty. God, that kid is so cute. Oh, I really want to carry it home. I really want to pinch your cheeks. Just a moment ago, I thought that Ziyang Zong's female disciple looks pretty good. Now that she's compared to the owner of Junji Drugstore, that's really, let's not compare, it's shameful. Chapter 191. That's because June Mayan's beauty isn't only limited to her appearance, but also that ethereal and otherworldly, enchanting and bewitching temperament that surrounds her. He was a monster who could steal a person's soul with just a slight frown and smile. As for Xiao Bao, there was no need to even mention him. Her exquisite facial features look like they were carved from the same mold as Mayan. However, in addition to that trace of absolute beauty, there was also a trace of innate dignity and fierceness. She was clearly extremely adorable, but when those icy blue eyes looked over coldly, it caused one's heart to tremble, not daring to act rashly anymore. Mu Yan helps Xiao Bao clean the oil stains on his hands, then she takes the cloth towel that Feng Haitang hands over and wipes her hands. Soon after, he looks at Shen Xiaoro with a smile that isn't a smile. "You just said that if I were the owner of Junji Drugstore, you would crawl out from here. Shen Xiaoro, are you going to fulfill your promise now?" Shen Xiaoro's eyes are bloodshot, glaring at Mayan like she's seen a ghost. It wasn't until Mu Yan's face was completely revealed that she recalled the time when she was suppressed by Mu Yan's appearance to the point that she couldn't breathe, and was jealous to the point that she wanted to go crazy. 5 years have passed, but not only has June Mayan not fallen from grace, she hasn't become ugly either. Instead, she became even more beautiful, and she even became a god-tier alchemist. How was this possible? You you can't be June Mayan, you can't be June Mayan. Shinsharo desperately shakes her head like a madwoman, hysterically roaring, June Mayan should lose all standing and reputation, miserable and dejected. June Mayan, that slut, should not have a good death. Bang! Before Shinsharo could finish shouting, Yen Haotian leaped up and kicked her in the chest. The pain of the broken bones in her chest made Shinsharo let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered. But before she could get up, she was stepped on by Yen Haotian, unable to move. Yen Haotian looked at her coldly. Just one look was enough to make Shinsharo's face turn pale and her whole body tremble. The Azura demons that come out of the Ghost City's beast-fighting coliseum aren't just there to scare people. Yen Haotian raises his head and looks at Mu Yen. The meaning was clear. Should they kill or not? Mu Yen hooks up the corner of her lips and chuckles softly, Haotian, be a bit more refined. No matter what, this is still my good sister. What's more, I'm still waiting for her to fulfill her promise. If you cripple her, how is she going to crawl out? Hearing this, Yen Haotian quickly retracted his leg and retreated to the side. The guys from the Ink camp, on the other hand, are only afraid of the whole world being in chaos. They immediately shout, crawl out. Crawl out. Ha ha ha, bitch, if you don't obediently crawl out, I'll make you crawl out from under my pants. Shinsharo looked at the surrounding diners of Kolai restaurant in fear. It was a pity that her expression and words just now were too sharp and unkind, making one feel disgusted. Therefore, now that she's being humiliated and punished, not only is there no one to help her, there are even a few people who take pleasure in her misfortune and shout along with the Ink camp, crawl out. Shinshao's eyes were filled with tears, and her face was filled with humiliation. Harboring a glimmer of hope, she looks towards Bai Chen and Gao Qinyu, senior brother, could it be that you want to look on helplessly as I, your junior sister, am humiliated? Isn't this what you asked for? Bai Chen still hadn't spoken when Gao Qinyu indignantly says, just now, your senior brother already told you to restrain yourself a bit, but you wouldn't listen. Now that you're being humiliated, don't tell me that you don't deserve it. Chapter 192. Even junior sister Lin Xidong's disappearance is also because of this Shinsharo's deliberate obstruction. If it weren't for her family and identity, Gao Qinyu would really like to ruthlessly beat her up. Not to mention Lin Xidong's childhood sweetheart, senior brother Chen. Now that there's someone who can ruthlessly teach her a lesson, it's really great. Shinsharo looks hopefully at Bai Chen, hoping that he can stand up for her. With Bai Chen's identity, as long as he's willing to reveal his identity and speak up for her, there's simply no one who can refuse to give dustless swordsman Bai Chen face. However, Bai Chen's expression doesn't change in the slightest because of her pleading. The voice that comes out can even freeze people. Keeping one's word is the character that Ziyang's people should have. Don't let people look down on you, and also look down on Ziyang. As soon as these words come out, Shinsharo only feels that the sky and earth are spinning, wishing that she could faint. She fiercely glares at Mayan, shrieking, June Mayan, if you dare to treat me like this today, in the future, my mother and the Shin family will certainly return it to you 1,000 times over. Mayan slowly walks up to her, crouches down, leans close to her ear, and softly says, Shinsharo, do you think that I don't know that when I was drugged that year, and when I accidentally trespassed into the forbidden area, was it all your and the Su family's plan? The Su family's people have already died in the fire. Can you guess what will happen to you? Tell me, if you were to choose, would you choose to crawl out of here, or die the same way as the Su family's people? Shinsharo's pupils suddenly contract. Her body trembles, and she looks up at June Mayan. There's a faint smile on that beautiful face that's so close at hand. Those eyes are bright and clear, as if they can completely see through her heart. At this moment, Shinxiaro actually feels a bone-chilling fear. Under Mayan's gaze, which is like a smile yet not a smile, she stiffly climbs up. Knees bent, hands on the ground, she slowly crawls out step by step. Not bad, not bad, you climb really well, very much like a dog. The people from the ink camp nod in praise. This attracts a burst of laughter from the people in the restaurant. Shinxiaro clenched her teeth as she crawled. The fear in her eyes slowly turned into bone-piercing hatred. June Mayan, just you wait, I will definitely tear that face of yours to pieces and let you die without a burial ground. Miss, do you need someone to get rid of that woman? Old Tao approaches Mu Yan and makes a throat-slitting gesture. Mu Yan's eyes darkened. She shook her head and said, there's no need. I still have a use for her life. Old Tao immediately took his leave. Soon, only Mu Yan and Xiao Bao were left in the room. Mu Yan is thinking whether or not she should go into the space to clean up the mess. Xiao Bao suddenly climbed up the chair and snuggled into her bosom. Before Mu Yan could react, he tightly hugs Mu Yan's neck and leans his little head on her shoulder. Xiao Bao has always been precocious and cold. Even if he's attached to Mayan, he rarely acts coquettishly and clingy like this. Mu Yan quickly hugged his small body in her arms and asked softly, baby, what's wrong? The room is quiet, and there's only the sound of the two people's thin breathing. Just when Mu Yan thought that Xiao Bao wouldn't answer, she hears a low whisper in her ear, Nyangqin, what is a bastard? Mu Yan's body suddenly tightens. The hand holding Xiao Bao also trembles slightly. Chapter 193. At this moment, she suddenly hates Shinxiaro very much. She hates this woman. She actually humiliates her baby like this, making her baby sad. Xiao Bao slowly raises his head from the crook of her neck, a pair of deep blue eyes quietly looking at her. Nyangqin, is Xiao Bao a bastard? Mu Yan suddenly shakes her head, of course not, Xiao Bao is Nyangqin's most important baby. His long eyelashes tremble, Xiao Bao clenches his small fists, then why do they always say that Xiao Bao is a bastard? Has Xiao Bao shamed Nyangqin? The one he cares about the most, the mother he loves the most. The mother he longs to protect for a lifetime. If she's humiliated, hurt, and wantonly insulted because of his existence, Jun Machin. Mu Yan slowly calls out his full name. Her eyes stare at him unblinkingly, without a trace of hesitation or evasion, without a trace of perfunctory or deceit. Nyangqin doesn't care what people say or do. Nyangqin only cares if Xiao Bao is well, if he's happy, if he's by Nyangqin's side. The hesitation and panic in Xiao Bao's eyes slowly turn into softness and joy. It's like a bright lamp has been lit on the vast ocean. Xiao Bao hugs Mu Yan's neck and gently rubs against it. Xiao Bao doesn't care what people say or do. Xiao Bao only wants Nyangqin to be happy, and to be together with Nyangqin. Mu Yan tightly hugs his small body, her face revealing a smile so soft that it's almost melting. But her heart hurts, as if someone is stabbing it with a needle. In the end, she let her baby get hurt. Tonight, Xiao Bao is particularly clingy to her. When she sleeps at night, he's also tightly clinging to her arms, grabbing her hand. Mu Yan gently pats him. It's not until midnight that she feels the little person in her arms soften and calm down, that she slowly lets herself fall asleep. In a daze, she hears Xiao Bao's low voice, as if he's talking in his sleep. Nyangqin, does Xiao Bao have a father? Having a father, what does it feel like? Mu Yan's slightly closed long eyelashes tremble, as if there are sparkling and translucent tears looming on them. She reaches out and holds the child's soft body in her arms, as if grasping at a life-saving straw. For a long time, she doesn't let go. Jingqing Country, Royal Palace. Late at night, Gong Qinshue hurriedly came out of her bedroom wearing only a single garment. Seeing Zhao Shan kneeling on the ground and Yan Lai lying beside him without limbs and beyond recognition, his eyes immediately widen. What's going on? Gong Qinshue lets out a cry of pain and rushes to Yan Lai's side. How did Big Brother Yan become like this? Zhao Shan lowered his head so that no one could see his expression. But he says in a hoarse voice, I went to Xia'an City to assassinate Jun Mayan, but I didn't succeed. After escaping with great difficulty, I discovered that the head wasn't dead, but had instead become like this, neither human nor ghost. That Jun Mayan is so vicious. Gong Qinshue revealed a shocked and pained expression, sparkling and translucent teardrops dripping down from her eyes. Killing people is just a matter of nodding one's head to the ground. How could she bear to harm Big Brother Yan so miserably? As she speaks, Gong Qinshue crouches down in front of Yan Lai, her face full of pity and guilt. Big Brother Yan, I'm sorry, it's all because of me. She hasn't finished speaking when Yan Lai, who originally had his eyes closed, suddenly opens them. Chapter 194. At the same time, Zhao Shan and the fierce flame mercenary group behind him also moved. The sword and saber were wrapped in a fierce killing intent, and in the blink of an eye, they had already neared Gong Qinshue's back. However, it was such a critical moment. Gong Qinshue's face didn't have the slightest hint of panic. The pity and guilt in her eyes receded, leaving only ruthlessness and coldness. With a slight sway of her body, she easily avoids Yan Lai's poisonous hidden weapon. He suddenly raises his hand and ruthlessly slaps Yan Lai's heart. With a popped sound, Yan Lai's heart shatters, his eyes bulge out, and he becomes a dead man. Almost at the same time, Gong Qinshuo turned around and grabbed Zhao Shan's neck with one hand. With his other hand, he snatched Zhao Shan's saber and slashed it down. In an instant, blood splattered everywhere. Both of Zhao Shan's arms were chopped off. He howled like a pig being slaughtered. Gong Qinshuo sneered and slowly stood up with Zhao Shan by the neck. At this time, around her were the corpses of more than 10 members of the Raging Inferno mercenary group. A grave and stern man in black walked to Gong Qinshue's side and stood respectfully. Gong Qinshuo coldly looked at Zhao Shan. You want to kill me with just a bunch of trash? Zhao Shan's entire body was trembling in pain, but he still glared angrily at Gong Qinshuo and roared in a hoarse voice, You! Back then! You lied to the leader, lied to our mercenary group, you! You will die a horrible death. Gong Qinshuo narrowed her eyes and said, How do you know what happened back then? Did Jun Mayan tell you? Zhao Shan opened his mouth and suddenly spat out a mouthful of phlegm mixed with blood on Gong Qinshue's face. You will die a horrible death. A cold light flashed in Gong Qinshue's eyes, and she suddenly exerted force in her hand. With a cracking sound, Zhao Shan's head drooped down softly. She throws the corpse away in disgust and takes the handkerchief that the man in black hands over. Wiping her face and hands, she says through gritted teeth, that Jun Mayan, in the end, I still underestimated her. Princess, do you want me to send someone to kill her? Gong Qinshuo narrowed her eyes and slowly said, Don't be hasty. Send someone to investigate her identity and background. I've always felt that this Jun Mayan is very important to me. I can't just simply kill her. Yes, Princess. Gong Qinshuo glanced at the people of the Raging Inferno mercenary group on the ground, frowning. I originally wanted to take these people for my own use. Humph, forget it, they're just a bunch of trash. By the way, I asked you to get in touch with the higher-ups of the Ghost City and find a way to turn Jingqing Country's Ghost City into our force. How's it going? It's a little difficult. The black-clothed man mutters to himself for a moment, and then he says in a low voice, we've already bribed the magistrates of Jingqing Country's Ghost City, but the King of Hell. But don't worry, Princess, it's only a matter of time. Halfway through his words, the man in black suddenly frowned and took a deep breath. Then, his expression changed and he took a step back. Gong Qinshue couldn't help but frown when she saw his unusual expression. What's going on? Could it be? What's that smell? It stinks. She took a deep breath and was almost choked to death by the stench. Ugh! Where did this stench come from? The man in black covered his nose and took a step back without a trace. He wanted to say something but stopped. Princess, it seems to be the smell coming from your body. You. Speak. What? Is that so? A scream that could overturn roofs resounded through the clouds. Chapter 195. Even Gong Qinshue's diehard followers, the men who adore her, can only give way when they see her. Because she stinks too much. Unless you plug your nose, you'll vomit out yesterday's meal if you get close to her. Gong Qinshue's lungs are about to explode from anger. She screams with bone-deep hatred, Jun Mayan, just you wait, I'll make you die without a burial. The next day, she directly leaves Jingqing Country and goes to Tiandao's sect. In Jingqing Country, she has already searched for all the famous doctors and apothecaries, but none of them can cure this strange poison. In this world, the only one who can help her is Senior Jian Feng of Tiandao's sect. Mayan, who's far away in Qi Yan Country, doesn't know what's happening in Jingqing Country. At this very moment, she's entertaining an unexpected guest. Xia An's Ghost City's Ghost King, Xia Yi. Xia Yi's expression is respectful, and he gets straight to the point. Miss June, coming to find you today is the sincerity of Ghost City. We hope to cooperate with you. Mayan raises her eyebrows. Cooperation. Are you talking about the special drafts? Xia Yi shows a wry smile and nods. You guessed right. I've come here in hopes that Miss June can provide a portion of the special drafts to our Ghost City every month. We'll buy them at double the price of the Junji drugstore. Mayan says with a smile that isn't a smile, you should know my rules. Xia Yi says, Ghost City doesn't want Miss June to break the rules. But the amount of special drafts that Junji drugstore sells every day is very small. I believe that with Miss June's ability, it would be a piece of cake to refine the same amount of drafts. This way, it wouldn't be breaking the rules, right? Xia Yi really doesn't know what else to do. Because of the emergence of the Junji drugstore's special drafts, almost everyone in Xia and who wants to buy drafts runs to the Junji drugstore. The Ghost City's trading house exists in name only. If this goes on, I'm afraid that even the prestige of the Ghost City will be damaged. If it were any other apothecary, the Ghost City would have already seized it by force. But as it happens, they run into this evil star. It doesn't count as breaking the rules. Mu Yen teased, but why should I refine another batch? Xia Yi clenches his teeth. Only then does he get up and respectfully hand over a dark purple token to Mayan. This is my Ghost City Shinshu token, a special token that has never been given out in the last 300 years. Holding this Shinshu token, in any ghost city of the Yanwu continent, one can enjoy privileges second only to the King of Hell. As soon as Shintu gave the order, the infernal judges and ghost servants all obeyed. This is my Ghost City's expression of sincerity towards Miss June. Mu Yan narrowed her eyes slightly, her gaze falling on the Shintu token as she slowly said, I may not stay in Xia and City for long. It doesn't matter at all. As soon as Xia Yi sees that her tone has loosened, he immediately says excitedly, although there's only one entrance to my Ghost City in Qi Yan, Jingqing and Huangyao, our hands and informants are all over the cities and towns. No matter where you go, Miss June, our cooperation will continue, and we will not trouble you to run around. Mu Yan ponders for a moment, then slowly hooks up her lips. All right, deal. Having just sent off Xia Yi, Mu Yan prepares to accompany Xiao Bao to practice martial arts for a while. But Haitang comes in and reports, Miss Shinxiao requests an audience. Shinxiao requests an audience. This time, Mu Yan is really surprised. But very quickly, she reveals a meaningful smile. Please come in. Chapter 196. After not seeing her for a few days, Shinxiao's injuries still haven't completely subsided, and her complexion is pale and sallow. Different from the arrogant and despotic attitude of that day at the restaurant, she immediately shows a tearful expression when she sees Mayan today. Mayan Mimi, it was Big Sister's fault a few days ago. Big Sister was really too surprised. You're still alive, so I got a little carried away. Can you forgive Big Sister? Mayan looks at her indifferently, then spits out 2 words, no. Shinxiao immediately chokes. Her face distorts for a moment, and it takes a long while before she calms down. With even more tearful eyes, she mournfully says, Mayan Mimi, Big Sister knows that you still blame Big Sister, but in the end, we are a family. Father and Big Brother have been looking for you all these years. Now that they know that you're still alive, they must be very happy. Mayan Mimi, quickly come back to the Shin family with me. Hearing the words, Father and Big Brother, Mayan's expression becomes absent-minded for a moment. She spared Shinxiao's dog life. It's precisely because she wants to know the situation of her adoptive father and brother. She also wants to know what that good adoptive mother of hers did back then. In her previous life, because of the death of the child in her womb, she hated the Su family, hated her adoptive mother, and thus hated her adoptive father and brother. But her adoptive father was kind to her, so Mayan didn't retaliate. From then on, she paid no attention to the family, acting like a stranger. However, after a short 3 years, she received news of her adoptive father's death. Another year passed, and even her brother died unexpectedly during his experiential learning. Only after a long time did Mayan know that her adoptive father and brother had looked for her. What happened to the Shin family in her previous life? Seeing Mayan's indifferent appearance, Shinxiao can't help but grit her teeth. Finally, she resorts to her killer move. Jun Mayan, do you know that father is seriously ill now? After all, you've been in the Shin family for so many years. Shouldn't you go back to the Shin family to see father and show your filial piety? Father is seriously ill. Mayan's expression is indifferent and solemn, coldly looking at her. Shinxiao was really scared by Mayan a few days ago, and she suddenly shivers. But she quickly adjusts her expression, wiping her tears and says, yes, father has been ill for a long time. Shouldn't you go back and see him? Jun Mayan, although father isn't related to you by blood, he still raised you for so many years. You can't be so cold-blooded and heartless. Mu Yan slowly relaxes her body, leaning on the chair, and unhurriedly says, all right, I'll go back with you. Are you really willing to go back to the Shin family with me? Shinxiao excitedly jumped up from the chair. 3 days later, wait for me at the gate of Xiaoan. Receiving Mayan's affirmative answer, Shinxiao excitedly leaves. After walking out of Junji drugstore, the excitement on her face is immediately replaced by resentment and ecstasy. Ha ha ha. Jun Mayan, you're beautiful now, so what if you know alchemy? Aren't you still being deceived by me, Shinxiao? Wait till you come back to the Shin family with me, haha. Then what awaits you is a fate more miserable than hell. Jun Mayan, your good days are over. I will make you pay back the humiliation you gave me a few days ago 1,000 times over. 3 days later, a carriage quietly stops in front of Junji drugstore. Ru Yan, Old Tao, Chen Qingfeng and the people from the Ink camp are all respectfully standing in front of the carriage. Chapter 197. Mayan nods and looks at Qingfeng. Have you really decided to go to Tianyuan City with me? After all, this is your ancestral property. Qingfeng nods without hesitation. From the day I decided to follow Miss June, I was already Mrs. Person. Wherever you are, my mother and I will be there. What's more, if it weren't for you, Qingfeng would have already lost his only relative, let alone the ancestral property. Mayan sees his resolute expression and no longer says anything more. She carries Xiao Bao and boards the carriage. Before lowering the curtain, she can't help but sweep her gaze over the courtyard next to Junji Drugstore. Di Mingju, in the end, he's just a passerby in her and Xiao Bao's lives. Gently shaking her head, Mayan lets go and lowers the curtain. The carriage slowly heads towards Xia and City Gate. City Gate. Senior brother, why don't you come back to Tianyuan City with me? It's rare that Xia and Tianyuan City are so close. My mother really wants to see you. Shinxiao sticks to Bai Chen's side, chattering non-stop. Gao Qinyu can't help but turn his face white, his face full of disgust. Bai Chen's expression is cold, not even bothering to answer. Shinxiao's eyes flash with a hint of melancholy, and she suddenly says in a sweet voice, Senior brother, I'm afraid you still don't know, but this time, Mayan is going back to the Shin family with me. As soon as she says this, Bai Chen really lifts his head. Even Gao Qinyu can't help but say, you're talking nonsense, right? How could that godly alchemist go with you? Shinxiao gets Bai Chen's attention, and she feels proud. But when she thinks that this attention came because she mentioned Mayan's name, there's a burst of jealousy in her heart. But on the surface, she has to put on a calm and indifferent expression. Mayan is my Shin family's adopted daughter. Now that she's grown up, isn't it only right and proper for her to return to the Shin family to repay the grace of raising her? My mother has found a good school for little sister Mayan. Before he could finish his words, he sees a carriage speeding over. It stops at the city gate, and Mayan, dressed in a moon-white dress, gets down from it. The morning sun falls on her elegant and beautiful countenance, as if it's plated with a layer of light. Gao Qinyu is simply stunned, muttering, so beautiful. Even Bai Chen's eyes flickered slightly. Shinxiao tightly clenched her hands into fists. It took her quite a while to control herself. She stepped forward and said with a smile, Little sister Mayan, why did you only come now? He reached out to grab her hand to show his affection, but was pushed away by Feng Haitang. Her beautiful face was cold and expressionless. Sorry, our miss doesn't like to interact with strangers. You, a mere servant, how dare you point fingers at me? Who do you think you are? As he spoke, he raised his hand and was about to slap Feng Haitang's beautiful face. However, just as she raised her hand into the air, it was ruthlessly grabbed by a thick hand that resembled a cattail leaf fan. Oh, it hurts, it hurts. Quickly let go. Shinxiao's face contorted in pain, and the bones in her hand made creaking sounds. Only then did Yan Haotian violently fling her a few steps away. He then looked at Feng Haitang worriedly, but happened to meet Feng Haitang's deep and focused eyes. Yan Haotian's heart fiercely trembled, and he promptly turned his head away, maintaining his expressionless face. Feng Haitang sighed softly, and slowly stepped back to stand by Mayan's side. Chapter 198. June Mayan, this slut, she actually lets her subordinates bully her again and again. But no matter how angry she was, Shinxiao did not dare to act rashly this time. She grits her teeth and looks at Mayan, can we go now? Mayan smiles, let's go. When Gao Qinyu sees that Mu Yan really wants to go to Tianyuan City with Shinxiao, he can't help but feel a burning passion in his heart. He looks at Bai Chen expectantly. He had been stuck at the bottleneck for a long time. If he could travel with June Mayan, maybe he could ask for a bottle of filter of barrier breaking. Bai Chen pondered for a moment, then took a step forward and said, "If you don't mind, can you allow us to travel together? Senior brother, are you really willing to go to the Shen family with me to see my parents?" When Shen Xiaorou heard that Bai Chen was going to Tianyuan City, she was so excited that she didn't even care about the pain in her hand. Gao Qinyu once again rolls his eyes, simply about to be defeated by this woman's shamelessness. Yichen apprentice brother is obviously talking to Miss June. Who was going to see her parents? Was there something wrong with this person? Bai Chen doesn't pay attention to Shen Xiaorou, but looks at Mu Yan. Mayan leisurely smiles. Why not? Xiao Bao, don't you agree? Holding Mu Yan's hand, Xiao Bao nods expressionlessly. Uncle Rabbit Lantern, he did not dislike. The corners of Bai Chen's mouth curled up as a gentle smile appeared in his eyes. When Shen Xiaorou saw this scene, she was so angry that her whole body was trembling. Bitch! 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 You can only take advantage of this time to be arrogant. Wait till we get back to the Shen family, I will teach you a lesson. She suppressed her anger and shouted, "What are you waiting for? If we don't leave now, we won't be able to reach Tianyuan City by nightfall. Do you want to be buried in the stomachs of strange beasts in Wuwang Mountain Range?" Wuwang Mountain Range is a mountain range between Xia and City and Tianyuan City. There were very special beasts that lurked in the night and came out at night. They were extremely ferocious and often appeared in groups. Ordinary martial artists could not deal with it at all. Therefore, most people did not dare to walk on this mountain path when it was dark. Otherwise, it would be courting death. Just as the crowd was about to mount their horses and carriages, a voice suddenly rang out. Suddenly, a group of people galloped over from the city. This time, it was still a carriage. However, it was not a carriage for people, but a carriage for goods. There were more than 20 carriages, and they were all filled with boxes and cages. The one in the lead was a middle-aged man. His face was ordinary, but the light in his eyes was restrained. Even Bai Chen was unable to see through his cultivation. A look of astonishment appeared on his face. When the caravan comes near, the middle-aged man dismounts the horse and quickly walks in front of Mayan. He bows and salutes. Ghost City's new magistrate, Dai Xiang, greets Miss June. Hiss. Gao Qinyu inhales a mouthful of cold air. WWW what? Ghost City's magistrate. Wasn't that a Xiantian realm expert? Moreover, that's the Ghost City's magistrate. Why is he so respectful towards Mayan? Shen Xiaorou was even more dumbstruck, unable to react for a moment. However, Dai Xiang did not care about their reactions. He raises his head and shows a fawning smile to Mayan. Xia Yanwang heard that Miss June is leaving Xia and to settle down in Tianyuan City, so he specially had his subordinates prepare a humble gift for you. He hopes that you and the little Gongzi will be able to live comfortably in Tianyuan City. As he spoke, he turned around and pointed at the cages behind him. Chapter 199. After Dai Xiang's introduction, the ghost envoy behind him immediately opened several of the boxes. Inside, the glittering jewels and rare herbs are all revealed. Gao Qinyu swallows his saliva with a gudong sound. Shen Xiaorou stares straight ahead, her eyes full of greed and desire. These things, if they all become hers, Dai Xiang also sees the greed in Shen Xiaorou's eyes. He can't help but laugh contemptuously, and says in a clear voice, "Ghost King has ordered that these are gifts from Ghost City to Miss June. If anyone dares to snatch them, then they will be making life difficult for my Ghost City." Clatter. Shen Xiaorou's heart that was just burning hot suddenly falls from the clouds. She gnashes her teeth in anger, looking at Mayan with eyes that can almost spit out fire. So many heavy things, how can we pass through the Wuwang Mountains tonight? June Mayan, do you want to kill us all on the road for your own selfish desires? Mayan still hasn't spoken. Dai Xiang already sneers, this girl, rest assured. How could there be any reason for my ghost city's gifts to be lacking? This one will accompany Miss June to escort these gifts to the gates of Tianyuan City. This one doesn't care about insignificant strange beasts. Some people don't need to worry about groundless things. Gao Qinyu suddenly widens his eyes, looking at Dai Xiang, then looking at Mayan. The ghost city's magistrate is actually personally escorting them to Tianyuan City. This June Mayan, what kind of divine being is she? Not to mention Gao Qinyu and Shen Xiaoro, even Mayan herself is somewhat surprised. She and Ghost City only have a cooperative relationship. Hearing that she's leaving, Ghost City actually came to send gifts and send her off. Isn't this treatment a bit too good? What's more, Xia An's Ghost City is almost emptied by her. How could there be so many gifts for her? Xia An's Ghost City. Ghost King, are we really going to give so many treasures to June Mayan? The magistrate says with a sullen face, this is half of our Ghost City's treasures. Xia Yi fiercely glares at him, and says gloomily, do you think I want to? But this is an order from the Ghost King himself. He wants us to absolutely serve this Miss June well, we can't neglect her. If the Ghost King himself came, he's afraid that his entire Ghost City would be emptied for June Mayan. The same doubts as Gao Qinyu arise in Xia Yi's mind. This June Mayan, just where did she come from? In the evening, the sun was setting in the west, and the last ray of light on the horizon disappeared. Roars of beasts could be heard from time to time in the Wuwang mountain range. It was as if he could see pairs of green eyes hidden in the bushes. Ah! I don't want to die, I don't want to die. Senior brother, save me. Shen Xiaoro screamed and tried to pounce on Bai Chen, but she missed. She has no choice but to settle for the next best thing. She tightly clings to Gao Qinyu's arm, shivering and shrieking, what should I do? What to do? Although the strange beasts in the Wuwang Mountains can only come out at night, each of them is at least in the Earth stage. There are only 4 of us. We're dead for sure. But I don't want to die. Gao Qinyu ruthlessly shakes off her hand, furiously saying, Shen Xiaoro, you still have the face to say that? If it weren't for you, we would have arrived at Tianyuan City long ago. How could we still be trapped here at night? Chapter 200. Gao Qinyu is simply driven mad by this woman's shamelessness. He hatefully swings his sleeve and no longer pays attention to her. Mu Yan, on the other hand, was carrying Xiao Bao as they sat on an enormous rock with a leisurely smile on their faces. It was as if they weren't in the depths of a dangerous place, but were on an outing amidst lush mountains and clear waters. However, he would occasionally look into the distance. TSK. This is a stupid rabbit. Don't tell me it's so happy that it doesn't want to come back. Here's what happened. After entering the mountain path of the Wuwang Mountains, the sun had already begun to slowly sink. Shen Xiaoro really hates Bai Chen's gentleness towards Mu Yan and Xiao Bao, as well as his disdain towards her. Moreover, if Mayan were to die in the Wuwang Mountains, then wouldn't the treasures that Judge Dai Xiang would deliver tomorrow all belong to the Shen family, which would be his? That's why she got hot-headed and dared to do evil. She actually deceived Mu Yan into entering the Wuwang Mountains. Of course, the truth was that Mu Yan herself wanted to enter this mountain range. Since the sun had set, the fat rabbit in the space had become restless. It had a look that said, I'm starving to death. It's not easy to get so much food. Let me eat until I'm full. Thus, Mu Yan smoothly pushes the boat and directly enters the Wuwang Mountains. Shen Xiaoro was very pleased with herself. She was sure that Mu Yan wouldn't be able to come out from inside. She didn't expect that after Bai Chen and Gao Qinyu learn that Mayan is missing in the Wuwang Mountains, they actually insist on going in to look for her. The sky was dark, and the faint roars of beasts could be heard. How could Shen Xiaoro dare to stay on the mountain path alone? She could only follow him in. In the end, Mayan found them, but they were also lost in the darkness of the Wuwang Mountains. At this time, Shen Xiaoro really went for wool and came home shorn. She was scared out of her wits. But she didn't think it was her problem at all. On the contrary, she thoroughly hates Mu Yan. Bai Chen suddenly steps forward, standing in front of Mu Yan and Xiao Bao. His gaze, however, was fixed on the nearby shrubbery. I'll hold the exotic beast back later. You take Xiao Bao and leave first. Mu Yan couldn't help but glance at the young man. She could see through Bai Chen's cultivation. Heaven rank high rank. To deal with the strange beasts of the Wuwang mountain range, 1 or 2 was certainly not a problem. But the problem was that the exotic beasts here almost all appeared in groups. Once they fell into the beast tide, they would die for sure. But even at a time like this, he still wanted her and Little Treasure to leave first. Just as he was thinking, there was a sudden howl and dozens of red-tailed wolves rushed out, their jaws wide open. "Aw, aw, aw!" Shen Xiaoro screamed and fell to the ground in fright, almost fainting. In the blink of an eye, Bai Chen unsheathed his long sword with a clang. The sword light flickered and danced in the air. In the blink of an eye, blood splattered everywhere, and the wolf's limbs flew everywhere. Even Mu Yan praised him from the side. His swordsmanship is extraordinary. For the time being, Bai Chen was not in any danger. But Gao Qinyu will soon be unable to hold on. Because that idiot Shen Xiaoro, after losing her soul in fright, unexpectedly hugs Gao Qinyu's legs. Several wolves rushed over. Gao Qinyu could have dodged, but he was held up by Shen Xiaoro. He could only watch as the red-tailed wolf bit down on his head with its bloody mouth. "Elder brother, save me!" Gao Qinyu screams, his eyes already revealing despair. In his heart, he hates Shen Xiaoro to the extreme. Seeing his junior brother in danger, Bai Chen leaps over. His long sword streaks through the air, the sword light is swift and fierce, forcing back most of the red-tailed wolves in the blink of an eye. But there is still one wolf, a fish that escapes the net, and pounces in front of Bai Chen. Its sharp claws ruthlessly claw down, and with a cracking sound, the mask on Bai Chen's face shatters. The sword's momentum is blocked. Valentine's Day Theater. A long time later. Xiao Bao takes Bailey Liuyin's notebook to Jun Shang. He turns to one of the pages and points with his little finger. Not waiting for Jun Shang to react. Xiao Bao already has his hands behind his back, and like a little adult, he leaves. A certain Jun Shang looks down and sees a line of words written in red, February 14th, Valentine's Day. As a qualified lover, you should, Jun Shang looks pensive. At night, Mu Yan comes back. She sees the ground covered in flower petals, the room full of candlelight, and a certain someone wearing silk pajamas, revealing his sexy chest. She is completely dumbfounded. What the hell is this? But before she could figure it out, a certain someone pounces on her like a hungry tiger. After a night, Mu Yan finds out that a certain someone is actually giving her Valentine's Day. Her shimmering eyes cast a sidelong glance. On Valentine's Day, you have to give a present? Where's your present? A certain Jun Shang is extremely proud, and also somewhat wronged. He grabs Mu Yan's little hand and presses it against his chest. In this world, is there a better present than Ben Jun's? Ben Jun has already given himself to you. Yen Yen is still not content. Chapter 201. Under the moonlight, the youth's peerlessly handsome countenance is revealed to the people, a bit pale. Face like the mid-autumn moon, color like the flowers at the dawn of spring. Beautiful and elegant, a peerless gentleman. This Yenwu continent's #1 genius, who is renowned far and wide, actually has a face like that of a good woman, an elegant and otherworldly appearance. It's no wonder that he often wears a mask. Boundless internal force emanates from Bai Chen's body. The powerful pressure makes the surrounding red-tailed wolves tremble in fear, and their movements can't help but pause. In the next moment, the long sword soars into the sky, splitting into tens of thousands of sword shadows, rustling down. The sword shadows dissipate, leaving only wolf corpses on the ground. The whole place is silent. For a moment, the strange beasts hiding in the dark are also frightened, not daring to move forward one by one. Shen Xiaorou stares at Bai Chen's peerlessly handsome face with an infatuated expression. She steps forward, wanting to hold Bai Chen's hand. "Senior brother, thank you for coming to save me. If it weren't for you, Xiaorou would have already died under the claws of the wolves. No matter how senior brother wants me to repay you, Xiaorou will." But, not waiting for Shen Xiaorou to finish her words, Bai Chen has already walked quickly to Mayan and Xiao Bao's side. "Are you all right?" Mayan looks at his face, her eyes slightly flickering. "You're Ziyang, Sek's peerless genius, Bai Chen." "That's right, my senior brother is the famous Bai Chen." Shen Xiaorou takes a step forward, fiercely glaring at Mayan. "Now do you know my senior brother's status? Do you think my senior brother would take a fancy to a lowly broken shoe like you? I advise you to stop your wishful thinking." Shen Xiaorou's voice hasn't fallen when she suddenly hears a loud slap. Immediately after, her face hurts, and half of her cheek unexpectedly swells up for no reason. Shen Xiaorou howls like a pig being butchered. But no one pays attention to her. Only Xiao Bao coldly glares at her, withdraws his little hand, and takes Mayan's hand again. Mayan chuckles, grabbing her son's little hand tightly. Her other hand turns over her wrist, and a porcelain bottle appears in her palm. This is the filter of barrier breaking. One bottle can let Earth stage and below break through the bottleneck. As soon as Gao Qinyu sees the filter of barrier breaking, his eyes turn green and he swallows his saliva. Miss June, are you willing to sell it to us?" "I'm willing to pay any price." Mayan casually tosses it, and the porcelain bottle falls into Gao Qinyu's arms. He catches it in a flurry, trembling as he holds the porcelain bottle. Soon after, he looks at Mayan foolishly. "Miss June, I haven't paid yet." Xiao Bao rolled his eyes. "Another idiot." Mayan shakes her head and says, "No need, this bottle of filter of barrier breaking is to repay Bai Gongzi for giving me the lamp that day." Gao Qinyu didn't expect that such a big meat pie would fall on his head. He was so happy that his face couldn't be seen. He thanked Mu Yan again and again, then carefully put away the porcelain bottle. "What about mine?" When Shen Xiaorou sees that Gao Qinyu actually has the filter of barrier breaking, she doesn't even care about the pain on her face. All of a sudden, she rushes in front of Mu Yan. "Quick, I also want to break through the bottleneck, quickly give me the filter of barrier breaking." Mayan sneers and looks at her sarcastically. "Shen Xiaorou, do you think I would give you drafts?" Seeing the chill in Mayan's eyes, Shen Xiaorou shivers. She clenches her teeth and says to herself, if you don't want to buy it, then don't buy it. There are already special drafts being auctioned in the Ghost City. As long as she goes home and asks her mother for money, would she still be afraid that she wouldn't be able to get the filter of barrier breaking? Chapter 202. Right, there's something I forgot to tell you. Mayan unhurriedly says, "I've already informed the Ghost City. no matter who buys the drafts that I refine, they absolutely cannot fall into the hands of you or the Sue family. Otherwise, if I find out about it once, I'll end the cooperation with Ghost City. Tell me, will the Ghost City still sell you the medicine? June Mayan, you slut, I'll kill you. Shen Xiaoro couldn't bear it any longer. She makes threatening gestures and pounces towards Mu Yan. Gao Qinyu suddenly rushes out from the side and knocks Shen Xiaoro into a rolling gourd. He says to Mayan with a fawning smile, Miss June, this Shen Xiaoro is so annoying, don't pay attention to him. Our junior sister Lin went missing because of her, causing us to be unable to return to the sect now. Junior sister Lin. Yes, junior sister Lin is senior brother Ichen's fiancée, called Lin Sitong. Gao Qinyu indignantly says, they were childhood sweethearts, and originally they were going to get married next year. Who knew that outside the fog forest, junior sister Lin, who was originally together with Shen Xiaoro, would suddenly disappear? We searched everywhere, but we couldn't find her. Lin Sitong, Bai Chen, Sitong. Senior Ichen. Senior martial brother. I originally promised to be his bride, miss. I beg you, help me, give it to Ichen Xiang's hands, tell him not to be sad. Mu Yan's eyes suddenly widen, and she quickly walks over to Bai Chen. With a flick of his wrist, a dark green jade bracelet with red veins on it appeared in his palm. Do you recognize this? Bai Chen's pupils shrank the moment he saw the bracelet. He grabbed Mu Yan's wrist and roared, where did this come from? Where's Sitong? You've seen her, haven't you? Where is she now? The gentleman in front of her, who was originally like a jade, suddenly lost all his gentleness. His eyes were filled with eagerness and desire. Mu Yan remembers the little girl who died in the fog forest. Even if his dantian was shattered and he was riddled with wounds, he was in unbearable pain. The only thing she cared about was whether senior brother Ichen would be sad, whether he would be sad. She sighed softly and said, I'm sorry, she's dead. She died in the fog forest. When I saw her, she was on her last breath. I couldn't save her. Bai Chen's body swayed, and his entire body stiffened. His gentle voice became rough and sharp, you're lying. How could Sitong possibly die? Tell me, where is Sitong right now? I'll go look for her immediately. Gao Qinyu also abruptly comes back to his senses, junior sister Lin is dead. How is this possible? He looked at Bai Chen in fear. If junior sister Sitong were to die, what would senior brother do? Mu Yan takes a step forward. Ignoring Bai Chen's abnormal behavior, she grabs his hand and shoves the jade bracelet into his palm. She was killed by someone, but before she died, she did not think about revenge, nor did she grieve over her misfortune. She only had one thought in her mind. Bai Chen, don't you want to hear her last words? Bai Chen abruptly lifts his head, his pair of scarlet eyes firmly glaring at Mu Yan. After a long time, he says in a hoarse voice, what did she say? She told me to give this jade bracelet to you, and then she told you that she's sorry, she can't be your bride anymore. However, she hopes that you won't be sad, only if you live well, can she rest in peace. Chapter 203. Ah! A pained roar gushes out from Bai Chen's throat. Powerful internal force gushes out from his body, filling the air. Shen Xiaoro and Gao Qinyu turn deathly pale with fright. Even the strange beasts peeping around them retreat one by one because of their instinctive fear. Sitong! Sitong! He can't hold back his tears any longer, and they fall from the corners of his eyes. You clearly said that you would always be with me. Suddenly, Bai Chen abruptly looks at Mayan, his mind almost collapsing. Who was it? Who killed Sitong? Who did it? Mayan calmly looks at him, spitting out 3 words, Gong Chinchue. Ha! Gao Qinyut sucks in a mouthful of cold air, incredulously saying, Gong Chinchue? Could it be that Jingqing country's princess, heavenly road sex outstanding disciple, Gong Chinchue, who entered heaven stage earlier than senior brother? Also the #1 genius in Yanwu continent today. Mayan slowly nods, and briefly narrates what she knew on that day. Before Lin Sidong died, she only vaguely described what happened. She already couldn't say a single word more. But Xiao Bao had witnessed everything that had happened. The sacred beast egg. Bai Chen grits his teeth, enunciating each word. That woman, for the sake of a sacred beast egg, she crushed Sidong's dantian. Mayan's expression is gloomy, and she doesn't speak. Xiao Bao suddenly opens his mouth. That sister said that she wanted to give the sacred beast egg to Yichen brother, and that it couldn't be given to a bad woman. Then, the bad woman killed her. Bai Yichen's hands tightly clench into fists, his body trembling violently. Blood drips down from the gaps of his fingers. Senior brother, since senior sister Lin is already dead, don't think about her anymore. That's her fate. You will definitely meet someone better in the future. Shen Xiaoro had just been kicked out by Gao Qinyu, and she only crawls back after a long time of dizziness. She just happens to hear the news of Lin Sidong's death, and she immediately goes wild with joy. Lin Sidong is dead, but doesn't that mean that Yichen brother is hers? But before she could finish speaking, she suddenly meets Bai Yichen's bloodthirsty eyes. A gentleman as gentle as jade, as elegant as an immortal. At this very moment, he's like a mad beast. She would be torn apart at any moment. Shen Xiaoro was so scared that she stumbled and fell to the ground, unable to say another word. Bai Yichen looks at Mayan. Please tell me, where is Sidong buried? Misty forest. Hearing this answer, Bai Yichen did not even ask where he was in the dense fog forest. He turned around and left. What are you planning to do? Mu Yan suddenly called out to him. Bai Yichen stopped in his tracks and did not reply. Mayan slowly says, I advise you, it's best not to act blindly without thinking. With your strength, you're not her match. Not only because of Gong Chinchua's cultivation, but also because of the power of Tiandao sect and Jingqing country. Moreover, only a few people knew how much power Gong Chinchua had kept by her side. With just Bai Yichen and the Purple Sun sect, there was absolutely no way they could contend against them. Bai Yichen spun around fiercely. His eyes were bloodshot and filled with madness. I don't care who she is or what kind of power she has. All I know is that she killed Sidong. Even if I die a horrible death, I will make her pay with her blood. In the end, Bai Yichen did not leave right away. That's because the nights in the Wuwang Mountains are too dangerous. He can't abandon his junior brother, Mayan and Xiao Bao. However, the strange thing is that, for some unknown reason, the strange beasts of the Wuwang Mountains did not come out again in the latter half of the night. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.